Hello.
All right, y'all. Welcome to All Politics of Local America's number one political hip hop radio talk show, broadcasted live every Friday. Y'all know normally we would be in the studio, but of course y'all know we're not in the studio, so we're doing this live virtually. But we've got a dynamic show, of course, as y'all know. If it is the first Friday, y'all know it is the Payne Report with our beloved Congressman Donald M. Payne Jr. And so of course you know he's going to be coming through at 8 tonight. So we've got a couple of exciting things that are going to happen from 6 to 7. We've got an incredible panel where we're going to discuss the ins and out of the debate. Of course, y'all know that the debate had some electric going on in that this past Tuesday. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. And then, of course, at 7, we're going to do a roundup. We're going to talk about some of the things that's been going on just globally and all over the community. And then at 7:30, of course, Rhino's going to do his thing. He's going to talk about hip hop. He's going to talk about what's going on in the music and what's going on in the community. Of course, I'm hearing that uh, um, uh, I forget that the hip hop guy that's friends with the president. What's his name, Donna?
Kanye West.
Kanye West. So I
The hip hop guy.
hear Kanye West owes some money to somebody, and that he having trouble paying the money back. I thought Kanye Rich was rich.
Yeah, we thought Trump was rich too. I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
So that leak came out, right?
Yeah, those are the things we're gonna get into.
The scam artists.
Conversation we're gonna have. So, John, you want to talk about who the guests are in the first panel and all that?
Right. Well, we decided that we saw the wonderful debates on Tuesday. If that's what you want to call them, we saw all that fire, and we thought we'd have some experts talk about what the debates were about and what debate should be, and to have a conversation about the politics around that and and what's coming up next for some of these political debates. We have our guest. One of our guests, our first guest, is an incredibly brilliant young man. He is the coach of Rutgers debate team. His name is Elijah Smith. He is a 2-time national champion in debate. He's one of the most knowledgeable people about academic competitive debate and communication in the United States, and is one of the most respected debate leaders, high school and college level in the United States, and even around the world, actually, because he taught debate abroad as well. So he is actually known internationally for his ability to communicate and his ability to teach communication. Welcome, Elijah Smith.
Welcome, Elijah Smith.
Thank you.
We got to clap, right? We got to clap. After all
If he was in the studio, we'd give him applause.
Right. We're going to be joined by some other people. We'll introduce them as they come in. But we wanted to have a lot of people who have, who deal with communication and communication background to come and talk. And of course, we have our regular, already introduced Zaid Muhammad, community activist, brilliant, probably been communicating for over 40 years. And we have also Donna Williams, the wonderful congresswoman. And we just have also a very accomplished lawyer and community person. We have Daryl Scipio also coming in to talk about some of these debates. He has been a longtime leader in this community. Starts his own chess organization. Accomplished lawyer, accomplished activist, and I know that Donna Williams can say a lot more about you as well. So we welcome to All Politics Are Local to have this conversation about these debates. So
I think we owe brother an applause too, right? Welcome to the show.
So, that was the first time?
No, he's been on before.
Yeah.
Okay.
yes, yeah.
But Jonathan, Zaid, how did you want to introduce Daryl?
No, you introduced him. You brought him on the show.
You said Daryl was what did you say? He was a youngster coming out of where?
No, I said I can remember when Daryl was one of those young cubs in Neoforce when all of us were much younger, but he was definitely much younger than I am. And all of them have really matured, and all of them are doing some very good things.
But John, when you say Zaid 40 years, I'd be like, well, how old is Zaid? You say he's been around 40 years.
Old enough to have been in these streets trying to raise hell for over 40 years. I ain't gonna say no more.
So when we're looking at
Zaid,
John, everybody hear us
you age
here?
well, my brother.
Yeah, I'm hanging there.
right, so when we're looking at these debates and we're looking at like what happened. So Elijah, talk to us, right? You do this whole college debate thing and you teach on a high school and college level. Would that debate have been acceptable in high school or college?
If it was a high school or college debate, it would have been stopped. Probably about at least 5 to 10 minutes in. One of the judges, at least, if there was one judge or if there were more judges, at least one of the judges would have stood up and said, "We're probably just going to flip a coin." Trump's behavior was beyond, reprehensible. Biden, didn't really help. But at the point where you get to people shouting back and forth, you're not going to have a productive conversation. And so they probably should have just ended it.
So you're saying they should have
Elijah.
just ended it after that. So Donna, you were saying?
No, so Elijah, so I want us to be clear. You can't just cut the mics.
I mean, they could, but they didn't have that capacity at the first debate. So I think in future debates, there's been a lot of conversations about the possibility of cutting mics and like keeping them on mute when a speaker is not, using their allotted time. I think that would definitely be helpful. But in a world where they didn't have that, they should have like taken a commercial break or just ended the debate.
So
That's a lot of money.
We want to also introduce our other guests. We have Deputy Mayor for Employment, Rahman Mohammed. Now, Rahman also has a lot of experience in actual political debates. I hear that you prep quite a few people in debate preparation, both in electoral politics and when you're dealing with things in the union. So you have a lot of experience with that. So let's welcome him to this conversation as well.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody.
So
Can y'all hear
so
me?
you're saying, Elijah? Yep, we can hear you. So you're saying,
Okay.
Elijah, they wouldn't cut the mic, but what they would do?
In a real like competitive debate, I mean, there's not really a mic to cut. Somebody who wanted to be an adult in that situation, there really wasn't an adult in the room at the first debate. An adult would just kind of interrupt and just say, "This isn't civil discourse. This isn't a conversation." You had Trump kind of just yelling and spouting off facts, which when they were fact checked ended up being not facts. They were lies. Biden, was allowing Trump to speak over him. He wouldn't wait. And just kind of hold off until he had a chance, an open minute to speak. The moderator was chastising Trump, but wouldn't just kind of tell him to stop. It was just kind of asking and begging and pleading, which at that point, if 10 minutes in you're begging him, right, to follow the rules that his camp, right, agreed to, he's not going to follow the rules for the rest of the competition. So, I get that it's kind of a big national thing, but I assume that there's some kind of mechanism to trigger a commercial break, right, in the case of an emergency.
Okay. So what did you think? What were your impressions of the debate coming in? Daryl Scipia.
Good afternoon, everybody. Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you.
Good.
All right, cool. I watched the debate. I was anxious to see how the debate would form. And I was really looking I was there for the entertainment value of it, and I was certainly entertained by all the crazy things that came out of Donald Trump's mouth, Joe Biden's mouth. I was really shocked when Joe Biden openly called the president of the United States a clown in the middle of the debate, on national TV. I think that, it was, I think, that description is obviously beneath the office, but I think that Trump has lived up to the description. So it was accurate. But I don't know if, if I want to see that type of that level of discourse in a presidential debate. And I thought that Trump was disgusting for attacking Joe Biden's family in the way that he did. That I didn't like that at all. Two things that Trump said that really disturbed me. When he did it's what he didn't say. When he didn't agree to denounce white supremacy, and when he didn't agree to a smooth transition if he were to lose the election in November. Those were scary. I talked to some people, and they were genuinely afraid by those comments. In addition to all the lies that he told, we could get into that. But just the lying, the open lying. For example, he said Obama left all these judges, all these judgeships to be filled. And so why didn't Obama do it? I had to do it. But in reality, Obama couldn't do it because the Senate wouldn't have any hearings. The Republican-controlled Senate refused to have hearings for any of Obama's federal judges. And Trump knows that. But the lie is just so much easier.
Especially when you're lying, and it's so much easier to have that to have the advantage in that way. Rahman Muhammad, here's a question. Like what was just brought up was the amount of abuse that was leveled out. Now you've trained politicians how to do this, and you've had sparring matches. How would you have prepared Biden for this?
Well, I actually think that Biden was prepared. I mean, I think the problem on why Trump did what he did, first of all, he was going to do that regardless. I think everybody probably expected him to do exactly what he did. And what you saw is what happens when you don't do preparation, right? And so he's done no more than what children do in schools when they don't prepare for a test. You know what I'm saying? They disrupt the class. And what he did was disrupt the debate because he didn't prepare for the debate, right? And so, when anytime when I deal with candidates as far as trying to get them ready for debates, I don't really, teach them on how to debate, but more about tactics in debate, right? You know what I'm saying? On, issues to stay away from. Don't get bogged down on certain conversations. Be clear and concise about what you say. Don't speak unless you know what you're talking about. And more importantly, don't be afraid to say, I don't know that right now. Let me get back to that. You know what I'm saying? Because I think people respect that more than trying to make up a lie or make up a reasoning that people will find out eventually later on was a lie. I think, when you look at that debate, the reality of the matter is that you can only say, I don't want to fight for so long, but if a bully keep fighting you, you're going to fight back. And that's what happened with Biden. Biden did exactly what he was supposed to do and calling him a clown, because that's exactly what he is, a straight clown. And if I was up there and telling them to shut up was right on too. And if I was up on that stage, I probably would have did the same thing and probably said something that was worse than that. And so, you cannot debate a guy who don't come to a debate to debate issues. That's not what he came there for. He came there to call names, insult, talk about this man's son, just lie out his teeth about all these conspiracy theories. And that's not a debate. Like, you know what I'm saying? Why do I have to argue with you about things that's not true? Like, that's not a debate. I don't want to spend time explaining that, right? I want to talk about the issues. What is your policy? What is my policy? And let's try to have a civil conversation about that. But he didn't come there for a civil conversation. And so because he didn't come there for a civil conversation, the debate went the way that it went. And Chris Wallace was absolutely correct to call that man out, to call the president out.
Now, Elijah, you're saying that you also agree that Chris Wallace should have been, like, Chris Wallace called him out, but you're saying you should have called him out even more. If you were going to prep a candidate or even anyone for how to handle yourself in that situation, what are some of what advice would you give? Like, for example, if there's somebody who will come to a debate just to curse you out, probably doesn't ever happen in college debate, but if someone came just to curse you out, like, how do you respond to that?
Can't hear. I can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Unmute, Elijah.
Yeah, you have to unmute yourself.
I think the best strategy is to wait for pauses. So even Trump can't keep up with the barrage of like insults and yelling for a full hour. When you get a moment of kind of quiet, I think that's really the opportune moment. But I think what's more important is to frame your response around the behaviors, right, that you just saw, right? So Trump, for example, claims to be the law and order president. Instead of just Biden just kind of said, "Oh, you're so law and order," right? He was really nonchalant about it. He should have said, well, "Okay, listen, right, America, your law and order president doesn't follow right rules, and he doesn't believe in order, right? Now, here's the reason why you should prefer me, right, in this instance." Now, of course, Trump is going to like try to jump in, but I think there was a couple of times where Biden, kind of was, reclaiming his time. He said, "I was interrupted, so I'm going to continue." And so whenever you get interrupted, just say, well, that I'm going to reclaim my time. If he's going to interrupt, he's going to keep speaking. I'm going to wait until there's a moment of quiet based on the rules that we agreed upon. And I'm just going to assert, the statement I have to answer the question.
And so that would be something that would be just a way to look at their performance as an argument and bring that up to the American people or bring that up to your audience. Like the between.
But the problem, Jonathan, I don't know if he care about that. So, I mean, this guy is not the normal candidate. I mean, we, for 4 years, we witnessed the crassness of this president. He doesn't care about any of those things because his supporters like it when he does those things. And so you pointing out his deplorable behavior, which the moderator actually did do, does not matter to him, right? That he thinks that would make him a man. That makes him strong because, once again, he's not there to have a civilized, issue-based debate. He's there to say, your son got $3.5 million from a Moscow mayor and all this other craziness that he wanted. And you told them you was going to hold up $1 billion because they was investigating. That's what he came there for. He didn't come there for to talk about what health care.
But isn't that the audience for that? Like the audience for that would have been Trump himself. But it would have been that small group of people who are there to listen and aren't really decided, right? Or are leaning toward one way or another, right? Like the message, I think, and I think, Elijah, what you were talking about, the message isn't for, because Trump is, you're right. The Trump is never going to change. Trump is going to be Trump, right? And his supporters are always going to be down for whatever. They're not even down for democracy. They're down for violence, right? But there is this group of people who are like this suburban white woman that everybody wants to get, that voted for Obama, then voted for Trump, and they're watching too. And I think, Elijah, you were saying that pointing that out and using Trump rhetoric, using Trump's Trump's messaging to say, like, look at his performance, like, look at what he's doing. He doesn't even meet his message, right? He doesn't.
Yeah, I agree.
He follow his law and order for a debate, right? So as to make an argument out of that. And
but you know what? But Jonathan, to your point, and I think what Rahman is saying, and I think I will hear what I think what I hear Rahman saying is that you're walking into a room that has no logic, no critical thinking. So how do you and Elijah, and even you, Rahman, because if you prepare people, and I would say, Daryl, even if you know that you're going to be a trial court attorney before that type of attorney, how do you prepare for that? How do you put yourself on defense or offense, because you know what he's going to do? So how do you maximize that moment? And to Elijah's point, so should he have just been quiet and said, that's the guy of law and order? And because my brother keeps saying that he needs a tagline, like all politics are local. So what would that have been better for him to find, like a tagline to say, that's the law and order guy, that's the law and order guy? But how do you prepare? I'm sorry, go ahead.
The problem is that's not him. So once again, this is what I'm trying to tell you when you're dealing with candidates, right? The first thing that you have to teach any candidate that's going into a debate is you have to be yourself. You can't make Biden out of what he's not. He's this nice guy who has all this empathy. He can't change his empathy. The fact that he told this guy shut up, whatever, that was actually him, because he has that type of personality that if you push him so long, eventually he's going to strike back at you. But you can't make him make up these names and be swift at trying to create these type of taglines for him, because that's just not his personality. And he probably would fumble doing that. The bottom line here is that the guy who he is debating is not someone who comes there to debate. And so you can't prepare that, because if I'm preparing a candidate, there's no way, Jonathan, if my candidate was running against you, that I would assume that your only reason for coming to that debate was to insult him and accuse him of all types of conspiracies that don't exist. So I'm not prepared for that, Jonathan. I'm not, because there's no way I would believe that. But then when you come there doing that, I'm trying to get my guy to listen, man, try to stay on game as much you can, but eventually you have to fight back.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I really liked that his advisors did advise him of is, and this was actually, and Rahman, I think that this was something that goes into what you're saying, is you have to be true to your candidate. They told him that when Trump became Trump, he was to look in the camera and talk to the American people. And that was actual strategy beforehand, because they were like, we know what he's going to do. We know he's not there for that. Don't look at him. Don't get into it with him. Just look ahead and just talk to the American people. The only thing that I would have done, the only thing I think that Biden did that was off his game is when he started to answer Trump's questions. Because when Trump was interrupting him and Trump was pushing him off his game, that was a deliberate strategy to break his thought, break his concentration. So he's like, basically he's jabbing him in the middle of his speech, throwing off his conversation, and he's perceptually trying to make Biden look weak. Biden fed into that point.
And Jonathan, I'm sorry, to that point, somebody did compare it to the rope-a-dope. They did. I heard that on the Joe Madison show, that they said they would compare it to the rope-a-dope.
Yeah, the only thing is Trump went overboard with it, right? Like, because if you're going to do that, interrupt him, you can't do it so that you become the issue. Usually, like in a speech like that, you might have one or two times to be able to do that and throw him off at a key time and it not be about you, right? So, but Trump did it so much, it was just about him in that way. And so looking directly into the camera, not letting your, like, the only thing that he shouldn't have done was he shouldn't have actually answered Trump. And he should be prepped next time. Under no circumstances, like, I don't know how they're changing the rules, but under no circumstances, when you were interrupted, unless address the other person, unless it's something that you can naturally snap back on, unless it's something that you naturally are like, oh, hell no, and then you really trust your gut with what you're going to say next. But if not, he's saying that, look directly into the camera and talk to the American people. There were some things that were brought up that were said that seemed like, they went way beyond even just a debate. Like at the end of this, what Daryl Scipio said is that, and this wasn't actually even covered initially as much as I thought it would be. In the debate, he said, elections are a sham, the ballots aren't any good. And then he refused to denounce white supremacists. So he's like, the militias can come out. The militias, he's calling out the white supremacists to stand by and come out in violence. Do you think that this was a debate where the president of the United States actually advocated violence in the streets to turn the elections on street violence and courts?
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely think that. And, I'm not surprised by that at all, because that's Trump's base, and those are the people that he feels are going to put him back in the White House. So, he'll do anything to empower those folks. There were, when he said Proud Boys, stand down and stand by. And, all of the Proud Boys on Twitter took that and ran with it. And, for the whole night, they saw it as a message to them. They were doing the right thing, and to keep doing it and to keep doing more of it. So, he knew what he was doing. He said, by saying stand by and stand down, that was not, I denounce white supremacy, at all. And that was the question. That's what the moderator asked him to do.
And Rahman, I'm going to direct this directly at you on this situation, right? Like of the addressing violent white militias to stand by, like there's going to be some fighting in the streets. Is that something that is that something that is dangerous messaging? Is that something that needs to be messaged against? Like, what is going on with that, and with respect to elections? Like, what do you see as going on with that, and how to counter it? Or am I just hyping it up too much?
Well, I got to be honest with you. I think that a lot of it is hype, right? I think, yeah, he said it, but I just think that if any of those things, first of all, no one's coming into our communities and thinking that we're just going to sit there and take that type of, that's not going to happen, right? So, you know what I'm saying? If the Proud Boys dare to come to the city of Newark, Mark, do not do that, okay? If the Proud Boys dare to come to the city, I apologize. If the Proud Boys dare to come to urban centers, I would suspect that they're going to have a rude awakening. But I also suspect that law enforcement would shut them down immediately if any of those things occurred. And so, I mean, he can rile them up, but to me, what he's riling them up to do is to get hurt. And I hope that's not what the intent, because no one's going to sit by and allow for anybody to do any harm to them. Now, is it serious? Do I think that? Listen, you have to take it serious, right? Just listen to some of them on Twitter talking about what they do. Do I think all of them would do it? No, I don't. I don't think all of them would do it, but I do think there's some crazies in the crowd that will take an opportunity to go out there and do some crazy things. And I think that folks need to be vigilant and be prepared for it, just in case that it does happen.
Mm. And in terms of a political preparation and police preparation, do you think that preparation goes from the gamut of lawyers to like armed people? Like what do you mean by in terms of preparation? Because it is something that many people have said is overhyped. He's not going to be able to do any of that, and police are going to police will shut him down, and have faith in that. And I think there's a good point to it, right? Because when it comes down to random Proud Boys versus actually the law enforcement in urban areas, don't know if the threat is really that serious. But but they have to take it seriously anyway. So in what ways do we have to take this seriously? Is it like?
Well, I think, the only way you can prepare for it, right, is through law enforcement, right? I think that law enforcement is already doing that. I think if you listen to a lot of the governors and secretary of states who happen to be in charge of these elections, they've already said that they're going to dispatch sheriffs and folks or state police at these polling sites. But here's the funny thing, though, Jonathan. We've heard this before, right? And we've seen folks dispatch these people to polling sites before, only to see nothing happen on that day. And so it's a lot of bluster. But once again, do you have some crazies in the crowd? Yes, you do. And you have to prepare for those crazies. By whatever means. Now, this notion that if Trump loses, he's not going to leave office is just, I don't even know why we talk about it so much. There is nobody that will remain. My wife is in the military. She's a lieutenant colonel in the military. There is nobody that will lose an election and and say, "Oh, I lost, but I'm still going to be the president of the United States of America, and the army is going to stand by my side." That's not going to happen. That's not in this democracy. It's not. There would really have to be a coup in this country for that to occur, and Donald Trump by himself cannot do that coup. So I just think that's just some overhype. If he loses this election, his behind going to be out of office as soon as the inauguration comes, and it's time for him to leave. And ain't nothing he going to be able to do about that. Now he can go to court and challenge ballots, and he can do all those things all he wants. But beyond that, there's no way he's going to be able to physically force himself to stay in office. That's just not going to happen without the military back.
And I think that what you're saying, Don, I think that this is something that reminded me of you. I was talking to my uncle. My uncle was involved in politics a long time. He was on Shirley Chisholm's first campaign for Congress, and one of the things he said is that he agreed absolutely with Rahman, right? A lot of your analysis reminded me of my uncle's analysis, and when he said that this was just hype from Trump to discourage voters and discourage votes, because he knows at the end of the day that there's going to be a lot of legal apparatus in place, and they're going to count the votes. And if the votes aren't there, then there's nothing to count. So the big deal is just to get people out and get people voting. What are some of the pitfalls that you think are happening that we really need to do in terms of getting people to actually vote and make sure their vote counts?
Let me take it back to 2008. I remember, let me see, I got feedback. Back in 2008, I don't know where the feedback is coming from, but I'm sorry.
I got
Back
you.
in 2000, okay, that's better. Back in 2008, I can remember doing voter registrations like out on Main and Day in Orange. And I can remember people, and particularly to my senior population, I was like explaining to them, just in case something happened, the weather isn't good, would you like to do a vote by mail? Back then, they didn't have to do it. You had the option of going into the polling place and or vote by mail. And I can remember one mother saying to me, Donna, I just want to go in and pull that lever. And whatever the question she had in her mind, she just wanted to be engaged in that day. And that's what, fast forward to today, I kind of describe with the vote by mail and every ballot coming to your house without you applying. I essentially say they're delivering the election to our kitchen tables, and people have to fill out the ballot, get involved, and be a part of it. Don't be so skeptical that you don't fill out your ballot, that you don't ask questions.
And fill it out right. Fill it out correctly.
Yeah. And fill it, yeah. And I think that on the side of, so for the voter, I need people to be engaged to fill out the ballot. I think that, and particularly in Essex County, that our county clerk has been responsive to our feedback. And I think that on the ground that everybody, whether it's a Mayor Baraka or Mayor Dwayne Warren or Mayor Ted Green, that we're doing what we have to do to make sure that we're listening to our constituents and responding accordingly. And I think ask questions, we need to be, if people are asking, we need to answer, and we need to anticipate. When I got my ballot on Saturday, I was on social media like, hey, I got my ballot, guys, this is what I'm going to do. And then I did another video showing what's in the ballot. So I think is that we need to make it an exciting, fun process. And Rahman, I believe you guys are doing the Prudential Center down there, and I'm sure that's going to be a spectacular day. So I think we all need to get engaged. And the one thing was when I did my video, people start responding. And one of the things that came out is that my girlfriend, who's from Orange but now lives in Atlanta, John, when people were saying, Donna, can I vote by mail, or do we have to vote by mail, or can we go to the polling places? And so my girlfriend was like, you can do it both ways, but that's because she can do it both ways in Atlanta. People have to understand that the state of Georgia has rules and the state of New Jersey has rules. But if we keep talking about it, if we keep talking about it, the more answers will be answered. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Now, just a clarification, Donna, are the rules different in every county, or are there rules are they every state?
Every state. Every state. Mm-hmm.
So that means that whether I'm in Essex County or in Bergen County, the ballot's going to look the same. It's just that the different candidates are going to be different, but the ballot's going to look the same.
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Because that makes it.
Well, go ahead. In Jersey, you actually have early voting. You can actually go to a county facility right now and vote as if you was voting at a polling station. People don't know that. Folks do not advertise that. Huh?
Can you repeat that and explain that? Because
you can go right now. It don't have to be the mail ballot. It don't have to be that. You can actually go to the county building, and as a matter of fact, in Union County, they got 2 polling places. In Essex County, we only got 1, which is the Hall of Records. You can actually go to the county offices and actually vote in person as if that was a polling location. So if you don't want to mail in your ballot, you can go today and go to the election offices in your county and actually cast your vote.
That's especially important. Can I get in here?
Yes, absolutely. Zaid.
That's especially that detail is especially important if for some reason you didn't get your ballot in the mail. Right. This is the first ballot or sample ballot I have gotten in the mail in 3 elections. I had to go down to the county office and not be terribly polite about why I had been getting stuff. And when I did that, I found out that they had me attached to a P.O. box that I haven't used in over 20 years. I said, are you serious? Are you ridiculous? And I just, how is that possible? I voted in every election since 1980. You're out of your mind. And I'm not going to leave here till y'all fix that, you know? And I voted right there on the spot after they fixed that, right?
And where? And you said right there. Where's that? Where's that? There.
This is the whole record here in Essex County.
And so, and every county has at least one or two places where, like, from now to before election day, you could just vote. Like, you could vote. Like, it's over a month before the election, and you can vote now.
Well, you know, in New Jersey, you can vote 45 days before the election. People don't know those rules because people don't want people to know those rules. You can vote 45 days before the election in New Jersey. If you go to the election board in your county, you can cast your vote. You don't have to mail in a ballot. You can actually go to your county and cast your vote and cast a vote.
Well, Rahman, also that's labor training. I mean, for me, the first thing the AFL-CIO said this year was that, remember, September 18th is the day you can go to your Board of Elections and cast your vote. So that is one of the good things that we do learn over on the labor side. There is a lot of good GOTV training.
But the problem though, Donna, with that, and you know, and I need to give some honesty. The machines in these counties don't want people to know that. I just want everybody to be very clear about that. And they don't want you to know that is because that is an organizing tool, right? If you know you got 45 days to take people to the polls, then you know that imagine if you was a real organizer, right? Zaid, imagine what you could do, Zaid.
Yes,
You know, you got 45 days to get people to a polling station and vote. If you really was a person that was in the ground, in the community organizing, and you had a base and you was able to take 45 days and carry your folks to the polls, then you would have an advantage in a lot of these elections, especially some of these small local elections.
So that would be true even like in school board elections. So that's true. So in every election, wait, because this is like, wow, because you're schooling me right now, right? Like, so even in local school board elections, these local elections that are met randomly in April, people who are organized literally take people to the polls 45 days before the election.
Yes, you can take them to the Board of Elections, 45 days, and they can cast their ballot at the Board of Election as if it was a polling location. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Right. If I personally was running for office, I would be taking people to the polls 45 days before the election.
Count them early. Get them counted early.
And that's important. That's important. That's an important detail.
Now, I was going to say, Zaid, I was going to ask you a question on this. Zaid, like you know, basically most activists, you are involved in most movements that I've heard of. Someone mentions a movement, you are involved in it. At some point, you know somebody who's involved in it. Do activists do this? Like when they have something or something they want on the ballot, do that? Is that a tactic that is used by people in the grassroots, people on the ground?
Yes, and it's a tactic that folks have to adjust to. Yes, as we go into this transitional phase where we're not physically taking folks to polls on election day type scenarios. We have to make the adjustment. Right. Yes, I mean, the heartbeat. One of the heartbeats, the issues of the 1960s was the ballot for the battle for the ballot, right? And soon as those battles were won, you know, via organization, grassroots organization, folks were taken to the polls in mass. Right. And the other thing is that we need to also be careful about this, because I'm not going to be dismissive of Donald Trump talking that violent stuff. The whole question of elections being by mail minimizes opportunities for confrontational violence from the right wing. However, where there are places in some states will have open polling sites, right? Our people need to be prepared to defend their right to vote. Let us understand that Reconstruction, once upon a time, was a period in history where we had the ballot coming out of slavery, and we're doing well with the ballot. but the betrayal of Reconstruction led to obscene violence around the dollar to prevent us from engaging in its usage, right? So it would be naive of us, I dare say, as somebody who had to lead an armed organization once upon a time, to take weapons off the table and totally rely on law enforcement that has been overwhelmingly racist in its content, makeup, and practice since its inception to be our protection. We have to be armed with every detail of what our rights are. And if we are in places where there is the likelihood of facing confrontation from Proud Boy types, we need to be prepared for that too, right? So organizations that are in the Black armed tradition, right, that exist, they need to stand by. Straight up, I'm making it plain. They need to stand by and be ready. And those of us who are interested in involving ourselves in that kind of activity, the Second Amendment does not just apply to white folks. And we need to let white folks be very clear about that. Right?
But they won't prove our applications, right? I know that 6 months.
I hear that, but I'm saying.
All right, so wait, hold on. What was that? What was that?
6 months, man. I applied for my gun permit in May, bro. I'm still waiting.
That's Jersey. That's because you in Jersey. Now we in a different situation. But in the Georgias, the Michigans, and these places where these folks have showed up at state buildings with arms, we can't miss that.
I agree.
Well, it's interesting.
Wait, Jonathan, this may be a good time for the attorney to step up and put a disclaimer on.
Right.
No disclaimer needed.
But it's interesting because I'm actually in Atlanta, and a lot of my relatives are in Atlanta, and one of the things that my brother talked about was how gun shops are out of bullets. That it's hard to buy bullets. Like the places that are selling bullets, like you have to get there at 9 o'clock, you have to put in a number, and because there's certain. I mean, people are buying guns, people are buying bullets. This is black and white. People are arming up since COVID. That's scary, right? But it is like there seems to be some type of ethos in the air that we might need to be armed in the southern states, and I think that is something. That's something. The question I was going to ask to you, Zaid, though, do you think that to some extent this arms race is kind of what Trump wants, like dysfunction at the polls? If people think that violence is going to happen at the polls, shots can go off at the polls, then people are less likely to vote. I mean, is that something? I think Trump, something that is
no. I think Trump is trying to create an actuality where if he can pull that card, he would pull it, right? But I think COVID is actually doing this country a mercy in the sense that in most states, the election is going to be totally by mail in most states, right? So that nullifies polling place madness. That really cuts a lot of that down. However, if this joker tries to, if for whatever reason he says he's losing and he doesn't trust the process and he tries to start some stuff, right? And people who believe in the process, who voted, and who are willing to accept him losing and the fact that he should go and start protesting, that's where the danger of confrontation comes in, right? That's when the Proud Boy types and whatnot can be dangerous because they've already been dangerous, right? Not just Proud Boy types, but these so-called, I call them Trump troops, right? These federal troops who've gone into cities, without identification, snatching people off the streets, beating people up, a top official responsible for the prosecution of this young boy that went into Louisville from Illinois and shot 2 people, right? They're already trying to the character of how they're going to charge this boy. So there's already stuff in the mix that really needs to be looked at, that's dangerous. This is not 1876, thankfully. There are a lot more black and brown people in the country than there were then, right? And our armed traditions have reemerged in ways that are not confined to what we tried to do with the Black Panther Party, thankfully, right? But the question that you raised earlier at the beginning of your question, that folks are arming themselves, they have every reason to do that. Do not underestimate your enemy, right?
Okay.
Art of war is one of your basic principles. Do not underestimate your enemy, right? So I would not dismiss for a minute somebody attempting to do something. If they say they're going to do that, they need to be checked out first for their capacity to do that, and then whatever their capacity is, you have to be prepared to defend yourself or nullifying them from harming you by virtue of their capacity.
Now, I just want to throw this to Elijah. When we start talking about the line between speech and violence, what is that line, right? And do you think that line was crossed?
So I think, I mean, big existential questions here. I think that he was inciting violence, but I don't think it's the first time. And I don't think it's the last time. So I don't think there's really this idea of a line that he's crossed for the first time. But I do think that I think a lot of people are outraged at the idea that he wouldn't say that he doesn't support white supremacy, but that would just be another lie, and then we would also be upset at the fact that he lied. He's tweeted videos from white supremacists. He supported white supremacists. He hires people who, their politics aren't so great. And so I think that I prefer a world in which he's at least being honest about what he's supporting, to incite folks who, and then to claim that he didn't know who the Proud Boys were, despite the fact that I'm sure he's been briefed on, the fact that white supremacist organizations are considered one of the biggest domestic terrorist threats in the United States today. That was also a lie. And so I think inciting those folks that he knows are the number one threat. I think a lot of it was to rally the base, but I also think that he likes to say things that are controversial. And so while he supports those folks because they support him, it also got him a ton of airtime over the last couple of days. But the folks who aren't voting for him aren't going to vote for him. The folks that were going to vote for him are, and a ton of the swing voters, despite the fact that he did that and wouldn't denounce white supremacy, are still saying that they are confused about who to vote for and confused about his character. So I think there's a multi-pronged strategy there that definitely at the heart of it is white supremacist violence. But I think for the most part, those folks who are undecided or towards the right are okay with that.
I want to go briefly, because we're running out of time in this segment, but I want to give everyone time to talk about the upcoming debate that we're going to have. We talked about the last one with between Trump and Biden and what that was, to unpack that. But we have a debate coming up between Kamala Harris and Mike Pence, the current vice president, the vice presidential debates. What is your take on what type of debate that will be, and if they even matter, right? Like, are they going to matter, the vice presidential debates? And if so, what can we expect? Can we get something out of that? I want to start with Daryl Scipio.
Yeah, that debate's going to be interesting, because when you look at the candidates, they're very different people, different personalities.
All right, you are.
Daryl, you froze.
Yeah, I think you froze. So when you come back, we'll put you back in. Elijah, what do you think about the upcoming debate?
I think the next one will be interesting. I think Pence is more dangerous than Trump, actually, because he's generally together and presents himself well. I think it'll be. I think it'll be pretty good, and hopefully it will be more about the issues than kind of a grudge match. But I think a really interesting thing about that debate is going to be about Kamala Harris, given her Indian and Black identities. I think part of why she was a really smart choice for VP is because she appeals so broadly to folks. And from the folks who I've spoken to, Asian Americans claim her as Asian Americans and Black Americans claim her as a Black American, And so I think what'll be the push that will happen, I think, is to get more Asian Americans who might be in the middle, on board with the idea that she is the way to break a glass ceiling for Asian Americans, despite the fact that they don't like her politics. So I think she's going to be walking that same kind of tightrope that Obama did. It was like, I'm black, but I'm not that kind of black. I think she's going to have to say, I'm Asian, but also black, but I'm the right type of both of those things.
Okay. And Rahman Mohammed, what do you think about this upcoming debate? And would your debate prep be different in this one than the last one?
Well, yeah, I really don't think either one of them need too much debate prep. But to be honest with you, I think it's going to be a boring intellectual debate that will be turned off very quickly for the viewers. And there's a few reasons why. One, Trump has brought the level of politics in this country down to the gutter, and people's going to be looking for excitement. And because they're not going to see that excitement, they're going to turn away from TV. Only diehards are going to view that debate. I can guarantee it's going to have low ratings. And you know what I'm saying? And so, and the other is, no one really cares about the vice president debates. You know what I'm saying? I got to be honest with you. I forgot who the guy was running for vice president last time. I mean, that's how bad, you know what I'm saying? That's how much people pay attention to vice presidential debates. And listen, until we get some more civility in his politics, until we get used to a system where we actually want to hear issues out and have people actually explain policy, you know what I'm saying, we're not going to pay attention to. I'm saying right now, there will be some. I mean, I'm a diehard. I'm not going to do it because I'm a diehard political guy. But I can guarantee the average citizen is going to be like, you know what I'm saying, not exciting to me. Both of them boring. Turn it off.
You're like we've been used to Jerry Springer and talk shows substituting as political dialogue. Right. And Trump has really done that he has brought the entire reality television. I will argue, curse you out. We get one step close to a fight.
That's the point I wanted to make. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this one is just going to be boring. And is there any advice that you would want to give them? Would you even want to give them advice that could make this more exciting?
Citizens, take a B12 shot to make sure that you stay up. You know what I'm saying? Because it's going to be a lot of, listen, I'm telling you, it's not going to be exciting at all. But listen, Kamala is a very good, she was a good prosecutor. She definitely knows how to spar in the ring, and so she's going to come off great with her issues. Pence has no other option but to continue to lie and to continue to praise Trump, and so you'll hear a lot of that. Was the greatest president, or you know what I'm saying? Wasn't for? I mean, because he has no other option but to continue the lie, or defend the lies that is being told, and so you'll hear him defending the lies, and you'll hear Kamala just explaining away, and I think in a nice way. She's going to have to say, Mr. Vice President, that's not true. And I think she'll be able to do that, by the way.
Okay. This is Daryl Sippy. Are you back? All right. So we are actually coming toward the end of this particular segment. Zaid and Donna, I'll let you both have the last say in terms of what we can expect from the upcoming debate.
I'll say, Zay, that I believe that leadership is important, and we have seen the difference in two styles of leadership. If you remember during the Obama, when he was president, when President Obama was in office, he too was confronted with racism and how he dealt with it. And one of his best speeches was when he had to respond to when Pastor Wright made some remarks and he had to respond. But also there was the issue when the professor had to climb through his window, and his style was that he got the police officer and the professor and they went out for some beer, if you remember, and how they were able to sit at a table and talk about their difference. Where we are now, everything is very confrontational, and it is reflective how everything has, the one thing that has that things trickle down, or I can't think of the word, but I think that he incites confusion, he incites a lot of violence, and it's obvious from what we see going on in our country. And what I think that we just need to do is get here and do it. This is our opportunity to make our actions turn into a real action by voting him out. So let's vote, vote, vote.
All right, Zaid.
Let me say this. I think one of the subtle tactics or objectives of Trump's tactics is a part of a larger strategy that unfortunately both parties have engaged in the last 2 decades, with the exception of President Obama's candidacy, right? Is that Trump's tactics are not meant to turn people on. His base is turned on, but they're meant to turn people off, right? Turn people off. Right. These politicians for years have been riding on low voter turnouts.
Yes.
And anybody interested in the advance of democracy is not interested in mass voter turnouts. Right. So to the degree that this stuff is confrontational, has no decorum, none of those things that you would want in a healthy democracy, this is deliberately done to turn off folks who are on the fence. Right. And because those are votes that they don't have to steal.
Right.
They're going to steal. Let's remember this man lost the majority vote by 3 million votes and still won by virtue of the Electoral College. And there was riffraff because how people were knocked off the rolls, on the way to the polls and weren't able to vote. See, so there's going to be some other stuff in the mix that we need to deal with also. And I'll say this too. Right. I think we need to look at,
even though we are coming to the very end of the segment.
I think we need to look at having our Secretary of State on the show. Teresa Ware, the first Black female Secretary of State in the state of Texas. She didn't have her hair. And talk about just what's at stake and what is the state's plan to manage this, to make sure it is totally above board, totally above ground, and that there's no riffraff in the mix, and that we're capable of running this stuff.
Right. And that probably needs to happen in every state with the secretary that is controversial, especially the swing states, to make sure that all this stuff is done well. But we have come to the end of this section. But as everyone who's on this has been on this show before, right? Like we've all been on the show before. We've all answered the question. Before we go into the next segment, that's a wonderful segment that the wonderful person Donna will introduce. Who is your favorite hip hop artist? Just briefly tell us, because we always want to hear this. Even though we're not in the studio anymore and we're not able to play music like we used to play music, our DJ still wants to know this information. So, who is your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group? Rahman Muhammad.
Well, I got many. I don't want to keep saying the same one. So, what I'm saying, I'm gonna go with Pac today.
All right, Pac today, and Elijah Smith.
Dead Perez.
Oh, it's not Kanye. I'm just asking.
Love both of those choices.
Brother Kanye has passed away.
Okay. All right.
Elijah, I enjoyed you. You got to come back, Elijah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I might do that conversation. We gotta talk more, sir.
Yeah, I need your debate coaches on another front too, because one of the greatest debaters of all time was the late great Malcolm X, and he's got an anniversary coming up, and I do monthly webinars for the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee, and we're looking at the anniversary of his debate. So some of you young master debate coaches, I might call on you. Get ready.
That sounds good.
And now, Jonathan, before Rahman leaves, can he just tell us, is the Prudential Center in place? Is it just for Newark, or is it an Essex County super site?
I think it's an Essex County super site, and it is in place. So yes.
And when you say that, can you just briefly tell us what that is again? Is it just going to be on election day?
Man, you know what? To be honest with you, I haven't done a lot of paying attention to it right now. To be honest with you, I don't know if it's just election day. I think you can go there now and register to vote and do some other things there. And I think you can turn your absentee ballots in now or your mail-in ballots now. So I don't think it's just for election day, but don't quote me on it, because to be honest with you, I really haven't paid attention to it.
Okay, well, thank you. And it's part of your using your own debate advice. If you don't know something, just say it, be upfront about it, and people will find out later and will believe you when you do tell them something. So appreciate you following your own, demonstrating the effectiveness of your own advice.
Yep, don't quote me as a liar.
Right. So much appreciated. I'm always learning something. And
Yeah, I
one
love
last
it, man.
thing, Rahman, even though
Nah.
like I think I can speak a little bit for Elijah, but as debate coaches, like I always appreciate you because a lot of you think this it's like you do in real life what we do theoretically, and so I really appreciate the stuff that you do rhetorically and with language because the way that you prep people and train people and look at communication and politics, I always got a lot of respect for that.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. All right.
All right, so we're going to this next segment, and the wonderful Donna Williams, you will introduce this segment and get us off the ground. Welcome, Assemblywoman Jackson.
Hello, how are you?
So a lot is going on down in Trenton, and tonight we have in the studio Assemblywoman Verlena Reynolds Jackson. I had the pleasure of coming to know her when we both served together in the capacity of counsel, and now she has taken on, and you know, we would always meet each other passing and doing the work and getting it done. And so to see her in the assembly now is only natural. So I'm very proud of her. She serves the 15th legislative district. I thought in particular for her to come on because if you see more ballot boxes in your community, it's because of the legislation that Assemblywoman put forth. And I want her to talk about what she's doing down in Trenton and what she's trying to do for the people of New Jersey. So Assemblywoman, the mic is yours.
So, of course, I got to say thank you to Donna, you know, for always showing so much love. And, you know, me being a newbie, Donna just came in and she just went straight for it. She's, as you all know, I'm telling you something that you don't know, but she's just a straight shooter. And I just appreciate you, Donna. Anytime we're in the same room, sister, you just show me so much love, and I appreciate you. I got here a little early because I like to hear conversations that are going on and things that are happening. And so I want to piggyback a little bit, if you don't mind, but I think it's all relative. And I don't know what happened, but I can't see anybody now. I just see myself.
We see you we went to a big screen, so you can have the screen.
Okay,
The floor is yours. Go ahead, Jonathan.
I'm like, who is that? I don't want to see me. I talk to myself all the time. I got MMI, me, Muff, and I, MMI. We always rocking and rolling. So, but I wanted to say with the whole everybody is talking about, you know, this pivotal moment that we're in right now. And that is the space of voter registration. And what I love that the Secretary of State has done is we have this app now, and I don't know if you're aware of it, but you don't have to have it by paper, and I love it. It's the New Jersey election app. I'm trying to see. You can download it. It's in the App Store. It's in the iPhone store. You can get it on your Android, and it's one of those things that I think is a straight game changer right now. And as soon as I can pull it up, it'll be even better. But what happens is you can check everything. You can check your voter registration. You can actually register to vote online through the app, which I think is a powerful tool. If there's any questions, you know, am I registered? We're hearing now, you know, double check. And today is the October the 2nd. The deadline to register is October the 13th. I got to check, you know, my family members, because they move all the time, and you know, sometimes they use my brother. I'm gonna throw him under the bus right now, but it's all good. He moves, and so sometimes he likes to use my mom's address, which is his permanent important address where he wants, you know, important information to go to. And then it could be in another space where he's like, no, I wanted to come to my house. And so now we have time. I want to have a real conversation with him about where are you registered, and check to make sure you're registered. If you want to change your location, this is the time to do that. And this is what we have to encourage everybody to do. Because after the 13th, we're going to be talking about to people now, how do you make sure you get your ballot? And so I'm in Mercer County, and we have our ballots have started to go out. You can, I've actually some people are mailing them back. And this is that period where we hear around the country about early voting. And so you can get your ballot and you can mail it back right now if your county has already sent them out. I haven't gotten mine yet, but we just want to make sure we go over how to fill out a ballot. And I did a video the other day with the group, and we went step by step. It's about, I think it was like 14 questions on there, but we talked about, specifically, how do you fill out this ballot? Why is it important that we have your correct address? Because we want to make sure that you vote in the district that you live in. And it's important because your representation is where you physically live. You can always have your ballot mailed somewhere else, but your representatives are because of where you live at. And that is very, very important, which takes me to my next point, is that the census is so critically important as well. When we talk about representation in Congress, in Washington, they use all these statistics to come up with why you get so many positions. Why do you have 2 senators, or why do you have 1 senator? And it really is all about the population count. And why do you get a hospital in your area? Why do you get a retail store or a food service store? It's all about what's walkable. Where do we need new highways and transportation? It's all about the data that's collected. And so the census is so important. And we see it right now that representation in Congress is extremely important. I think that's probably one of the lessons that we learned from Obama, is that when we sent him to Washington, we didn't send him with all of the representation so that we can have our checks and balances. And so, not having the majority in one house, does stall us from being able to get things through. And again, it goes back to the basics of what your population in your town is like, and making sure you have that represents your interests and your needs, and what do you want, and then you hold us accountable. So there's a lot of things that are out there now. We want to make sure we get funding that we need for people that are working or out of work right now. Our unemployment is extremely high, but I digress to say these are the tools that we in at the beginning stages of the census and registering to vote, and why it's so important to vote. And that one bill, the drop boxes, was another big piece. We talked about voter suppression, and we want to make sure that we have as many opportunities to make sure we get those ballots in. And again, we saw how they were. I know there are mailboxes that I know have been there since I was a child, and to one day to see them gone is like, oh my God, what is this? And we have to begin to think 1,000 feet above, instead of just sometimes day to day. That moving the ballot, the post boxes was just like that was just a disaster. And the fact that somebody came up with that to suppress our votes is incredibly disgraceful. And then to say I'm not going to send them back is another slap in the face. So I think these mail drop boxes for our election is extremely important. It's safe. They all have 24-hour security. They have to be picked up every day, and there's cameras, and they're very secure. So I'm encouraging everybody to use the drop boxes. Do we have enough? Probably not. But again, I believe there are a lot of different options out there. And I've also encouraged people to make a plan on how you're going to get that ballot to the drop box, to the mailbox, to your polling location. COVID has just changed a lot for us, and you don't have your normal voting locations. And so you got to pay attention to what location is going to be open. It should be on your ballot that you get, where your facility is and how to mail it, and all those instructions. And so, Donna, I encourage you to do a segment on how to fill it out. We still have time between now and the 13th. I think we got one, maybe two more Fridays coming up. One more Friday, but to go over line by line, how do you fill this out? Go over the app. If you have the technology where you can show the share your screen on how to fill it out, it's just extremely important, because once you do it or you use it, now I'm more confident and I'm more empowered to be able to tell other people. And your streaming show, gets to a lot of people that are really the trusted voices in the community. So we have to begin to lean on them. I call ourselves the choir. I'm a altoid. I'm an alto, and so I know my message, and I don't know what range you sing in, but we have to really sing out to the public to make sure we get this information out there. So I'm just going on and on and on, but you jump right on in.
You know what, Assemblywoman? Well, first, let me just say that that Assemblywoman Timberlake just sent a text and told me to tell you that you're a rock star, and she's
Oh,
looking at
love
you on
her.
YouTube. But
Love
to your
her.
point, but to your point, I do, and you're absolutely right. So I have the insert in front of me that shows for Essex County all that came in the ballot, all of the polling places, and on the back it has the different ways to vote. And what I will say, and Zaid, you can jump in here, is that I was there when you were on the floor defending your legislation, and your colleague on the other side, how she, was trying to put a stumbling block to something that was so common sense. I want to
Right.
have more county boxes out there so our constituents can get to them in a more efficient and effective way. And you argued for about 45 to almost an hour about the simplicity of this should be a seamless process. So
Right.
I think that what people think, and you always hear voting has consequences, but if people, so you get to the streets and you tell, hey, my legislation went forth, and as a result, instead of 10 boxes, we have 20 boxes, and that sounds so simple, but you argued for 45 to almost
Oh,
an hour as to why that was so
and
seamless.
I'm
And so
not.
people,
And you know
yeah.
what? I mean, I understand her point. The point of her that she was trying to make is that they want in-person voting, and I don't disagree. However, we are in a public health crisis, and I know that our seniors would, and this is really where I think, Donna, we need to do a lot of work with our seniors to bridge the digital divide. We cannot put them in these compromising situations, right? We cannot put their lives on the line, have them waiting in line, in between. And just think about it logistically. When you enter to vote, one, you got the pen, right? I'm bringing my own pens now. I want to use your pen. I'm going to make sure I bring my own. Two, you have to go into the closed booth. That means we have to wipe down the booth. I don't know how they're going to shake out the curtains and everything, but you got to make sure that it's clean for the next person to go in. This stuff doesn't just happen in a matter of seconds, but then you have to multiply that by the hundreds of people that are going to be coming to the polls. Now you've extended somebody's time that normally might take them all of 5 minutes. That might take them a half an hour. And then again, you multiply that by the number of people that are coming in. We're into a couple of days at this point. So it's just not realistic. It's not healthy. But I understand her point. I think Senator Gill also had some very strong opinions as well about allowing for open voting. And I think, we have to come up with a better technology, right? I think also, why shouldn't we have same day voting? And why don't we have online voting? We do it for banking, we do it for telehealth now, we do for a whole plethora of other things. I think we need to really think about long term, how do we really remove the barriers from people going out to vote? And that's what this is. And to really, like, to your point, to argue about these these drop boxes, and are they needed and why they're needed, to me was kind of pointless. I'm saying we need more of them, especially in light of all the people. And I believe New Jersey was either number 2 or number 3 in the country that had the most turnout. We had the highest turnout, number 2 or number 3. I can't remember which one, but that's a significant amount of people. And so I think the vote by mail has encouraged more people to participate. I hope that if this is your voting of choice, that you continue, because we have another election in 6 months. And in New Jersey, we have one in 6 months after that. We vote all the time now. So it's extremely important that people get engaged and feel comfortable. And I want to ask each of you, what is one of your fondest memories of voting?
Well, I don't know if I have. Well, the last memory I had, Assemblywoman, it's a pleasure to meet you. I was just telling the rest of our show in our last segment, I had to visit our local office and not be polite about the mishandling of my registration.
Right.
I have not received a sample ballot or now that we have the regular ballots in over a decade, and I voted in every election since 1980.
Wow.
Right? And I said, why am I not getting my stuff? So I went in to vote in person for a local election, and particularly for her, for Donna. Right? And they told me that, well, we see that you're registered with a P.O. box. I said, I haven't had this P.O. box over 20 years.
Ooh.
Right? So my recent memory was not pleasant. Right?
Wow.
And I had to, I'm the Panther OG of my community. I had to let them folks know that, y'all gonna fix this, so it's gonna be a serious problem.
Oh yeah.
Some heads are gonna roll, right? So it wasn't pleasant. I have to say that the first time that I went to the polls in 1980, and it was I voted for an insurgent, Ted Kennedy, against Jimmy Carter. Right?
Okay.
That was the first time I went to the polls for a national election. And it was, it was a crossroads moment at that moment for where the country was going to go any further to the right, because as they were pushing back on Carter with the emergence of Ronald Reagan and those folks, and Ted Kennedy was kind of a flashback for how things were once upon a time in the 60s. So that I guess that was the most exciting in terms of my first one. And then there's this young man named Ras Jewel Baraka, who's the son of Amiri Baraka. When he ran, I've been involved in every one of his elections, but there was something about 2014. We came in ready. We took the ground early, and that election was special. That's my most special election, to be sure.
Awesome.
And for me,
now I would appreciate the guests are interviewing us. I'm loving this.
but for me, and that's how that means he knows how to pivot. For me, it is I've been voting since high school. I'm a graduate of high school in 1985, and our teacher, Mr. Bob Bryan, rest his soul, we had a class, and in his class, it was civics, as a matter of fact. In his civic class, we had a whole.
That's what we need.
Yeah, exactly, a whole curriculum. And at the last part of the curriculum was to register to vote. And when you registered to vote, you had to give a speech on how you were going to leave Orange, go to school, and what were you going to do to come back and make our community a better place. Now, that was in reflection, but it was calling. My county clerk is Chris Durkin, and I was preparing for a debate, and I wanted to know my voting record, how long I've been voting. And what Chris Durkin said to me, Donna, we started doing a report on this date, and you've been voting ever since the day you've been doing reporting. So since I've been reporting, you've been voting. But the day I remember, and I ran for councilwoman and won in 2008. But then, and our election is in May, but to come back in November, so by now the presidential election and President Obama's on the ballot, so I'm going to all the polling places that general election in November to make sure everything was okay. And
Mhm.
if anybody remember, we get to the polling place. I'm driving by us, like 5:45 in the morning, and lines are everywhere. And I'm like, every polling machine can't be down because we're not used to that type of voter
Right,
turnout.
right, right,
And
right,
so
right, right.
I drove past Haywood, and then I went over to the Board of Education, which is also a polling place. And when I got in, and I'm walking in, like, what's going on? Do we need to call a board of election? They was like, Councilwoman, no, people are waiting to vote. And I was like, so excited. I was just
Right,
that
right.
2008, those
Lines were long.
yeah,
I wrote a piece on that. Yeah.
in 2008, and then it happened again in 2012. So President Obama is also today is even if anybody's been watching the game Miami and LA, and they had the virtual audience, and him and Shaq was in the audience, but it was funny because how big Shaq was, but
Uh-huh.
how the camera, and as you know the and Zaid, as you know as well, the importance of an opportunity, and they went to the camera and gave him being President Obama the opportunity to say something, and he was like, "Hey, I know this is a basketball game, but why I got you, vote, vote, vote." And so I think that, and if you remember, Assemblywoman, after the 2008 elections, I can remember that following March, there were trainings coming out like the Obama effect,
Oh yes,
and how they were training people to do what he did in his
yeah.
campaigns. But down to come outside that 5:30 and 5 in the morning in 2008, and to see those lines, and to only be surprised that the lines were there because people were waiting to vote. And then Sandy was his reelection, and people stood in rain, and while that
Yep,
storm was
yep,
coming up the
yep,
coast,
yep.
they, especially down like Virginia and all of that, they stood in a
Mm.
long line because they were voting
I
for Sandy.
forgot about that.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Yeah,
So,
I remember I sent a text out, or my girlfriends, and I sent a text that I had to wait in line. I've never had to wait in line before to vote. And they said, "What? This is your first time voting?" I'm like, "No, this is the first time I've ever had to wait in line to actually cast my vote. This was unprecedented." And I asked you all the question because when you think about the excitement and the joy that it brings you, my second question to you all is,
And wait, we gotta ask you some questions now.
I
Hold
got,
up.
I got one more because this is my point. This is my point because in my former life I was supposed to be a teacher, so I just want to I want to ask the next question is, do you take anyone with you to the polls when you go to vote? And so my point is the excitement that you talk about, and the history, Zaid, that you talk about, and all of these times that you're going to vote, do you feel the need to take someone with you? I feel like it is our obligation to pass the torch of voting as a legacy on to the next generation. Now, I don't have any children. However, I have 9 nephews and a plethora of other nieces, nephews, and official godchildren and unofficial godchildren. And for me, I want to make sure that is one of the things that I have taught them. When you talk about me, you can always say, "Oh, she voted and she made sure that I voted, and that I'm going to make sure my children vote, my family votes as well." So that was my pivot to you, Saeed, to find out, who do you take with you to the polls?
Well, I haven't. Well, in 2008 was a family fair. Everybody who was in the
Okay.
house, we all went together. That was
Oh, nice. A family.
my queen and mother-in-law at the time, right? And her my sister-in-law. We all went together at that one
I
particular
love
time.
it.
My youngest daughter is a very political animal. She's
Uh-huh.
only 16, right? And she's the great niece of the late great Ella Baker. She don't need nobody. When it's come time to her to vote, she ain't gonna need nobody to come take her to the
Right.
fair, right? And my other daughters
She
are
gonna be on the
very
ballot
liberal. Oh
somewhere.
yeah. I live for the day when she finds her own voice as in the community as a presence, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling she will make folks forget about her crazy old father, and the spirit and I tell her this, I mean, because I have my own profile that she's personally proud of. I said, you know, your Aunt Ella was a legend whose shoulders we all stand on.
Oh yes, oh yes.
When you embrace that, and Ella was an incredible organizer, right? And she was responsible for bringing the organizing the energy of young people coming into the civil rights movement with the formation of SNCC, right? Amongst all of the other stuff that she has done over several decades of her organizing since the 1930s, rolling up into her death, right? So I look forward to her, you know, finding her own voice. I don't push her. She knows she can come to me when she needs to. She knows the shoulders that she stands on, that she has with me. But I have to remind us, you know, you've got a range in terms of your family tradition and our people's overall tradition to pull from. So I look forward when she really begins to truly, you know, develop and find her own voice. Now we got that. Now hold up. Now let's get this show right. You the guest of the show.
Let me just answer something here, because like you, Assemblywoman, I am auntie extraordinaire as well.
Yeah.
I do have a daughter, and she's grown now. In fact, I have a grandson. I will say, Arcadian was born 2000, so 2000. He was 8, so yeah, he was always with me doing everything. But now, and it's funny because he's 20 years old now, and I catch myself. Yeah, but I catch myself.
Gosh.
But the funny thing is, I catch myself and I might grab his hand. He like, Grandma, really? You know, we crossing the street and stuff. But he's always used to be with me for everything. But I tend to take young people, because I do the things like the challengers. We go get breakfast for people working at the poll. So there's always somebody, you know, that we have, and even to the point where engaging people. And this election has opened opportunities where Board of Elections had the ability to hire more people, and more people have even inquired about working. So
Oh yes.
So we had more people are getting engaged, and we are getting them engaged, and I like that. And you know, it's that trusty civil rights group. You know, they come up out of retirement real quick when stuff ain't looking great. I think that and I'm a big civics person, so I take young people through our foundation. We take them down to DC. Normally they would have gone to the Congressional Black Caucus, because I am a person who, when I was in high school, we had civics, and it made the difference, because I registered to vote in high school, and and as a matter of fact, I came from a generation that I can remember. You know, quick story. When I was a kid, we had a mayor, Joel Shane, here in Orange, and as a child, we worked on a campaign and handed out flyers. And I remember an elected official and introducing myself years later to Joel Shane, and I said, "Hi, I'm Councilman Williams from the city of Orange." And he's like, "Yeah, I used to be mayor." I said, "I know, I worked for you, sir," when I got to tell him that story. So when you're able to do little things and connect the dots and engage everybody in the community, from a top to our wisdom in the community, it's how the community becomes cohesive. So every chance I get, I'm going, you know what we do, you know, we get together, put our heads together, and let's figure out how we can get everybody involved, because the more our community is involved, and it's to the point now, because civics is not in place. And there may not be a real connection to your city government, to the people, and every day, you know, I get the calls often where people will be like, especially when I was still in office, "Councilwoman, I don't want to bother you. You're not bothering me," you know. So and that's because people, and sometimes are disconnected, and we can use these opportunities to connect them and to show them how government works, and how you know, those tax dollars translate into service.
Yeah. So, Assemblywoman, let me ask you this: at this very pivotal moment, when we're voting on, you know, the paradigm in terms of form has changed. We're not going to polling sites like we conventionally do, and like how you just asked the question, right? And in most cases, in many states, and in terms for if this country is going to have a chance of keeping this particular election civil, right? What are you doing in your own work? What are you suggesting amongst your peers and within your community to do what's necessary to get our folks who feel disconnected from the nuances of this process?
Right.
The nuanced process that requires paying attention to detail, filling out this line, affidavit, this, and all of that. That can be intimidating for some of our folks.
Yes,
right?
it is. Right.
What are we going to do now to get our folks over that hump and to get them to participate as early as possible?
Right. So I think, this show and ones like this, we have to get out into the community and have these conversations. We have to meet people where they are. I love technology, don't get me wrong, but there is a huge part of me that feels like technology separates us. And so, to your point, our seniors, who's going to be the one that says, I want to make sure you fill this ballot out correctly. I want to make sure that you use the inner envelope and the outer envelope and make sure your name is seen through the screen. Who's going to double check that? I think we have to do our own internal check first, right? You got to take care of home first. So I've had this conversation with my mom. Although she's been voting by mail for a minute now, I want to double check. I want to make sure you signed it. I want to make sure and there are, depending on where you live, there are 3 questions on the ballot as well that need to be answered. In Trenton, we have 4 questions. So you got to make sure you look at the front and the back and make sure you read those questions and answer them as well, whether it's a yes or a no. But again, that's part of our whole political democracy in filling out this ballot. But we have to I say start at home first. I say you check on your immediate family, you check on your aunts, your uncles, and did you get your ballot? And again, as we talked about, what does that plan look like? So although I want to make sure I check it, my mom's stuff, I got to call her on, I'm going to call her over the phone and she's going to do FaceTime, or I'm going to physically go there and double check it and make sure it's okay. And I'm going to do that for every single older person that I know. Who's double checking your ballot? Now they may have nieces, nephews, and grandchildren as well, but I want to make sure I do my part and I'm reaching out to them. And I'm constantly asking the question, how are we making sure our seniors are being taken care of? I'd rather somebody tell me, oh, I took care of it already. My granddaughter came over, I'm good. Stop calling me. I took care of it, I'm good. Versus nobody reached out to me, nobody checked, and I didn't know what to do. I'd rather double down, triple down on it just to make sure that we're doing our due diligence 10 times over versus them not having anyone reach out. And even in this COVID space where we're trying to practice social distancing, this is another reason to reach out to your loved ones to make sure, one, that they're okay. And a lot of seniors don't talk to many people. So we want to make sure, again, that we've reached out. Did you get the ballot? Because that's part of what Senator Gill was saying. When you live in these apartment buildings, there's no guarantee that you actually got your ballot. We have some things in place where you can see if it was received and accepted, but how do I know I ever even got it? It could somehow went in somebody else's mailbox or never made it to the mailbox. So we have to start at step 1. Did you get your ballot? That's a critical part to all of this. And then how do we make a plan to make sure that it's done properly? And some people don't know that there's 2 envelopes that you have to put in. Again, I use my family as a perfect example. My brother is highly intelligent. He's smart. I said, how are you going to get your ballot back? This is for the primary. He said, I'm dropping it off. I said, well, I'm on my way over. I'll pick it up. And it was in the wrong envelope. I said, what are you doing? This is not right. And he went back to go look for that envelope. He went back and never had the right envelope. So we had to go down to the Board of Elections to get a new one. But whose family is really taking that kind of time? Like sometimes, and And this was the last day. This was July the 7th. This was the last day to vote. So note to self, vote early, get your stuff in early so that if there's any problems, you have time to cure it before it's too late. Because otherwise, he would have put it in the box and it would have been a rejected ballot. And there's nothing
So,
about it.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
oh, so Assemblywoman, so you know we have affectionately called you Auntie Assemblywoman. I don't know if you see that going along
I
with
do.
that.
You got the hashtag rocking.
You got the hashtag for you. And as we come to a close, we're before we go into our next segment, I want you to prepare to give your closing statement. We have but we have a question
Got to
for
get the
you.
question, yeah.
Yeah, we have
Okay.
to give a question, but as you give your closing statement, the thing, there are three, and I'm just going to say really quick, so you can, if you can get it all while you're giving your closing statement.
Okay.
Legalization of marijuana, about the veterans, about the census
Right.
question, number three. You
Right.
said there was a
Right.
fourth one in Trenton. And then as you close, just let us know who is your favorite hip hop artist or hip hop group. Look at her face.
Oh. Let me see. Favorite hip hop group. Oh wow. I
Yeah,
don't
you
know.
can save it for,
Save that for last.
talk about the
That's your outgoing question.
So the question,
Save that for last.
one, thank you, Donna, for your consistency and following up and getting me on this show. Thank you so much. I want to come back again. I enjoyed myself. As you see, I'm a talker. I love to talk. I love to share thoughts and ideas, and be in great spaces with great people. And you and Zaid are definitely that. The questions that are on the ballot, real quick. One is about the census. It's being delayed due to COVID, and so they want to push pause and use the data later. And that's one question. The other one was the other question is about veteran. I think it's wartime benefits not be taxed. And the third one was legalization of marijuana. And in Trenton, there's a one on there that is about I want to say staggering terms. Don't get me wrong, but I haven't got my ballot yet. But there's a question on I think it's about staggering the terms. I think that's what it is. Oh, or maybe moving the election date. I think that's what it is. Moving the election date. And so that's on there. And I think in closing, people, the average person only sees the end. I call election day the celebration day. It's because of all the hard work that we've done before it. And I think if you have an opportunity to ever work the polls and you be able to count the numbers to see how people come in your district, it is a beautiful sight. Or it could be one of, we got work to do. So I think, we're always learning and growing. I think we just have to make sure we continue to do ID politics and making sure that we identify what our issues are, what we want, support those candidates, and then those that don't support us, we have to find somebody to replace them. But voting, it should be done like you, Donna, as often as possible, and ensure that we show our power by going to the polls. If we weren't a powerful people, they wouldn't try to take it away from us. And the last note I want to end on is that people that are on parole and probation have the ability to vote. And so again, there were over 80-some thousand people that have this voter right restoration that happened, and they need to register to vote. We have time. The deadline is October the 13th. So please register. Don't count yourself out to say, oh, I'm not eligible. Count yourself in, fill it out, and let our elected officials make sure you get counted in this upcoming election. Because if you have not seen, our lives are really at stake. And the rise of white supremacy and these hate groups are definitely out there. And so vote to make sure you get candidates that represent your interests. So I didn't come up with a hip hop person, but I love Tupac. I love Biggie.
Okay.
They are rotation in my playlist. And I like MC Light. That's my girl. We go all the way back.
She didn't have a name. But here's the thing. I would tell you, Assemblywoman, you have one of my favorite poor righteous teachers right in your backyard. That's one of my favorite. Poor righteous teachers.
Straight out of Trenton. That's right.
He just came out with a book also. So I can't remember the name of it, but his wife posted the other day that he just came out with a book. So go get it. It should be awesome. It's going to be awesome. It's on my list to get to.
Okay, well, thank you. And we will definitely invite you back. And we have our DJ Rhino in the building now. So DJ Rhino, as we say goodbye to Assemblywoman, we're going to go up and talk about poor righteous teachers. So Assemblywoman, thank you. Okay, we'll see you soon.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you.
All right, thank you so much. Bye now.
Bye-bye. So DJ Rhino, did you know about that? Did you know about Poor Righteous Teachers coming out? What's his name from Poor Righteous Teachers? Oh God.
Wise Intelligent.
Wise Intelligent.
Wise Intelligent. Yeah.
Did you know about the book?
Yeah, I know about the book. I haven't read it yet though, but I know about the book and I definitely plan on getting it.
Okay. All right. So what's going on in hip hop this week? Does hip hop talk about this? Did hip hop talk about the debate?
I haven't heard anything. It's still kind of early. I haven't heard anything hip hop wise from the debate about the debates from anybody. But what I did want to speak on tonight though was black code in hip hop. Black code in hip hop.
Okay, black code in hip hop. Okay, got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make it plain.
You know, I don't know if y'all. Well, I'm sure y'all saw Minister Farrakhan's speech on July 4th. Criterion. Y'all heard it? Y'all hear me?
I didn't.
I was muted. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I've been meaning to watch it, but Zahid said he seen it. Go ahead.
Yeah, July 4th, 2020, Minister Farrakhan delivered a speech called the Criterion. And there were some words that he gave that were taken out of context, way out of context. There was a line in his speech somewhere where he said that we need to cast the stone of truth upon those who call themselves Jew but are not. Okay. Now this line was taken out of context by a couple of people, particularly Vlad, DJ Vlad from Vlad TV. You know, I
need to straighten him out on some Malcolm X stuff.
Yeah, and so he took it way out of context and made it as if the minister's words were literal, as if he was talking about actually throwing stones at Jews. So it wasn't even a misquote. It was a lie. He lied basically and said that that's what the minister was trying to say. So Vlad ended up getting a lot of backlash. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Vlad. He's Russian.
He's big on YouTube.
He's a Russian Jew, and he has a huge platform on YouTube where he speaks to everybody, whether it's recording artists, rappers, singers, athletes, whatever. But he got a lot of backlash for quote unquote misquoting the minister. So but some people who have been on Vlad's platform, they support him because they've become friends of Vlad. You know, people like Lord Jamar from Brand Nubian, people like the comedian Godfrey, even my son, the brother that runs with Sister Tamika Mallory.
We had him in here in Newark. We did the march with him in Newark. We had him in Newark. Mm-hmm.
Right. So these are brothers that have been on his platform many times, and honestly, Lord Jamar, just his presence on Vlad's show, on Vlad's platform, has attracted others to Vlad's show. You know what I'm saying? So he's brought on other acts behind Lord Jamar on the strength of Lord Jamar being on his show. But so at first, and same thing with Godfrey. So, Lord Jamar and Godfrey, at first it seemed like they were kind of like, they spoke to, they're honest with Vlad. They tell him what's going on. Like, they let him know that what he said wasn't good, but they're still friends with him, and they still, were protecting him in such a way. And so was my son. Royce 5'9" had an issue with Vlad, and he was pretty much canceling Vlad because he felt that if Vlad is not going to apologize for taking the minister's words out of context, then he's not showing respect to the people as well as the minister, because minister is like the leader of the people, for a lot of us. So that's been an issue. So now Royce 5'9" and Lord Jamar in the past have had issues with each other because of Eminem, some things that Lord Jamar has said about Eminem. And if anyone knows, Royce 5'9" is like tight partners with Eminem. But Lord Jamar has called Eminem a guest in the culture of hip hop and things like that, and Royce 5'9" has come to Eminem's aid, so to speak. But strangely enough, Royce 5'9" and Lord Jamar have spoken on this situation with Vlad and the apology due to the minister, and they have come together and joined forces along with comedian Godfrey, along with Cam, K-A-M. He's from out in California, a rapper from back in the day. They all have come together and have agreed that they are not going to be dealing with Vlad. Then they also brought my son in. My son was probably one of the last brothers to get on board, but he realized the same thing, that if you and this was another thing too, that Vlad had made some statement about how his numbers were great this last month without Lord Jamar and Godfrey and all of that. So they said, all right, well, if you feel like your numbers are so great without us, then yeah. So then, right, exactly. So so they're all pulling back right now, and they spoke with my son, and my son agreed also. He's pulling back because he feels like if your numbers are more important than your relationship with the community, with the people, then you don't need to be dealt with.
Let me just say a couple things, and let me just jump in there because I just want to historicize what you're talking about. One,
right.
I want everybody to appreciate it, and we're talking about hip hop, right?
Right.
Minister Louis Farrakhan is 87 years old, and I think it's fascinating. And I want folks to appreciate this: that an elder that stature, that long on this earth, is at the center of a political discussion about hip hop in 2020. I want everybody to also appreciate that July 4th has different meaning for those of us who have background in the Nation of Islam. July 4th this year was the 90th anniversary of the emergence of the Nation of Islam, right? And even though Minister Farrakhan was there, and just 3 years later, Minister Farrakhan is born and still with us and still has that kind of presence in terms of his impact on the I would dare say, using his language, the most rejected and disregarded element of our community, those of us who are young and on the streets and on the edge, right? So that's a healthy thing, because there are very few of our leaders who, as they have aged, been able to maintain that kind of connect and relevance with the youngest and the most edgiest elements of our community as they age, as they get older. They tend to lose touch. Sometimes they tend to deliberately disconnect and disregard, right? And which has been a big problem on the elected front, I would dare say, right? But for somehow, some way, that organization and that particular minister has had a way to keep itself relevant to our people in a way that we can all appreciate and respect. So I think that's a healthy discussion and some accountability taking place within the realms of hip hop. Right on to that discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I understand that the Congressman Payne is in the background, so we got to get ready to wind down. What do you want to leave us with?
So what I just want to leave off.
And I'm sorry, Ryan, as you wind down, can you bring up Mike? Go ahead, Jerome. I'm sorry.
All right, no. So what I was just going to say, I was just going to round it up, just saying that, for me, and I was telling my wife this, that it's a very good feeling that I get when I see these brothers coming together this way. Like I said, there was some tension between Lord Jamar and Royce 5'9". To see them come together, and then to see the East Coast brothers get together with a West Coast brother, then to see these brothers get together with a brother that's out there in the trenches like my son, and they're all on the same page. And they're talking about not just dealing with not just Vlad, but other platforms like this where you have these white hosts, hosting hip hop segments online, having these hip hop podcasts, and Dame Dash talked about it years ago, about the culture vultures, so right now it just seems like a lot of these rappers are coming together. And they're ready to filter out these culture vultures right now. And they're really having a real discussion about that kind of thing right now. And it's a beautiful thing. But also, just real quick, tapping on what you were saying, Zaire, is, I personally, and I'm gonna put it out there, I just made 50 on the 7th of September. I remember being
a lot of us ain't making.
Thank you, exactly. I remember when I was 18, 17, just getting into Minister Farrakhan and listening to his speeches and starting to follow where he was going and what he was doing and what he was saying, and I got that through hip hop. That was Public Enemy that put me on the Farrakhan. You know what I'm saying? And I've been following Farrakhan ever since. And even my own group that I was down with, Hidden Descent, we followed Farrakhan. We used to get up like 4 or 5 in the morning and we go sit in the car in the freezing cold and we would listen to Farrakhan when he came on. You know what I'm saying? We would listen to Farrakhan tapes in the car, So it's like, yeah, definitely Farrakhan basically raised my generation somewhat. He was an uncle. He was a big uncle of ours. You know what I mean? And yeah, so we have that respect and we have his back. And that's what it's got to be, man. And if we ever see somebody like that being disrespected, it's time to stand up and speak out.
That's right. That's right. We take care of the elders in our community. And Rhino, so we'll see you on the other side. Congressman Payne is in the room.
Big ups to Congressman Payne. That's big bro.
Yeah. So we're going to have a virtual, what party did you do last time, Rhino, down in DC? What party? The new party? So as Congressman Kane, it's time for the new party to start. This may be the last day of the Congressional Black Caucus, but he'll talk about it when he comes on. But you got to do a virtual new party, Ryan. Yeah. And then so make sure next week, let's prepare to talk about A Poor Righteous Teacher. The book, Wise Intelligent. If you can remember back, the Lincoln Park Fest, and when Wise Intelligent, he did that freestyle. Last time he was there, he left like, now go home and hug a thug. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Straight out of Jersey, baby. Trend all the way with that. Yeah.
That's right. All right, big ups, y'all. Much love.
Okay.
Ride.
Right now. Peace. Peace, Doc. Peace, Congressman.
All right, my brother.
Congressman Payne, how are you?
Mr. Muhammad,
Congressman Payne, how are you, sir?
Mr. Muhammad, you're looking well with that orange background behind you, brother.
That's he loved orange is his favorite color. It's Congressman Payne's favorite color. We're trying to find him an orange seersucker suit. So
well, y'all know it's time for the Payne Report. And of course, the Payne Report normally comes up at 6, but the congressman said I like being the cleanup batter. He said if y'all haven't scored all the points,
that's the big bat now. Yeah, got to produce.
So the congressman said if y'all haven't scored all the points in the first 8 innings, I'll come on at 9. I'll get it done.
I don't know about all this weight on my shoulders now.
Well, welcome to the Payne Report. What's up, Congressman?
How you doing, brother?
I'm good.
How's everybody doing?
All rightfully and righteously busy. This crazy moment in time. As we face this crazy country at the crossroads, I hope we're all where we need to be in this particular moment.
Absolutely.
Well, Congressman, I hope you wasn't in the building with our president and you don't have to quarantine, sir.
How about that?
I guess some of the benefit of not being invited next to on Air Force One.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm trying to stay off of that plane right now. I was trying to get on there for a few years, but right now I'll pass.
After November, let them be disinfected.
That's right. I'm gonna have President Biden pick me up in Newark.
Congressman, you have been busy this week. I get your alerts. You have been doing so much this week, sir. I just alert this. So much has been going on, and the SB and you did the small business came up. Your session came up this week too. You have had a really busy week, sir.
I really have, and I'm kind of run down right now. But it's the work of the people, and you got to continue to do what you need to do in order to, keep your word and do what you said you were going to do. So, it's all good. It's all good.
So, Congressman, let's talk a little bit about, I'm sure you saw the press release. And so I want to talk about my father used to say doubting Thomas. So I want to talk about the doubting president who's now a believer, right? He didn't believe in the science. He didn't believe COVID. He didn't believe in
Chickens came home to roost on his behind.
Right. I mean, exactly Malcolm's statements, right? And so the chickens come home to roost, man. And now, he's a believer, and even to the point where they had to take him to the hospital, right? Normally, if it's not that bad, you can stay home and you can cope with it. And Donna, you can speak to that. I mean, Zaid, you was able to stay home and deal with yours, but Donna,
Donna had to go to the hospital. I had to go to a special quarantine. I needed a second quarantine. This stuff will kill you.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is 74 years old. He needs to stop acting like a teenage bully and grow the hell up. And if COVID has to smack him upside his head to make him grow up, I hope it smacks him so hard that he doesn't miss the point. I'm not.
I thought you were going to go someplace else with that.
Well,
thousands of people have died because of this man and his disregard for science and people's human lives. Thousands. We have over 200,000 people dead behind COVID. Imagine Newark being gone one day.
Right.
Huh? No, I have no. If he doesn't wake up and we don't wake up and get rid of him, we all deserve some of the hell that's coming our way.
No, it's true. Obviously not a fan of the president, but I hope he gets through this so he can realize what he needs to do. I tweeted out earlier, that the president needs to, finally understand why he should have been wearing a mask. And now he's finding, unfortunately, he's finding out the hard way. And, I really just, hope he makes it through this. So hopefully he will see the error of his ways. But I mean, he's in a very high risk category. Earlier in the day, they were saying that, he has minor symptoms. And then it was like, he's going to quarantine at home. And then it's, we're going to send him to Walter Reed. So this thing has been escalating.
Right.
It's been escalating all day.
Right.
And, hopefully, he doesn't succumb to it as many Americans have done. So to this virus, it is, I guess he figures it's real now. I guess he sees it's real now.
Yeah.
And Donna, you're the first person I thought about when I heard it. And just, I mean, for those doubting Thomases out there, Donna, just, and I know you probably don't like reliving it, but just give them an idea of you know, how fortunate you are based on what you went through.
Well, what I will say, and Ed, I do use the analogy that it was like being a TKO, because I can remember um, that night, the night when I started coming down, I was sitting in my mom's room and I was sitting with her. And I remember getting up and saying, you know, I will, you know, gave her a kiss because you know how you feel when a cold is coming down. I could go upstairs and just lay down, gave her a kiss, and then I never came back downstairs, and you know, and I got progressively worse. I mean, it was just a steady decline, and unbeknownst to me, my brother was downstairs with it as well. And so the funny thing is that my brother, you know, he's at the age, he's 6 o'clock in the morning, get up, come up, hey, what's up? And he didn't, so nobody had came upstairs because my mother, you know, I was at the point of taking care of her, and then my brother was downstairs and he couldn't get off the couch. And I had been laying in my bed 4 days. I couldn't do it. Then that day, you know, I had to talk myself up like, Donnie, you got to get up. You got to get up. So that morning I got up, and you know, I've told the story, got up, took a shower, and that just took everything out of me. A couple hours later. So if it started like as this process started at 10 a.m., it took me to like 7 p.m. to get the strength to get downstairs.
Wow.
And I got downstairs, and my nephew had to help me get dressed and call the ambulance. And I think if I wouldn't have got up here, we would have been planning 2 services instead of 1. And I have never, you know, I am a asthmatic, and I couldn't, and to the breathing portion, that not being able to breathe. And we know the sizes of hospital rooms, and to go from my bed to the bathroom was a very labored event. And you know, and even so, I was in the hospital from the 11th to the 21st, and when I came home, you know, it was a whole nother process of just like a rehabilitative process of learning how to breathe and talk again. And you know, when you talk to me on the phone, because you called me in the hospital, I couldn't, you know, this conversation we having now was not the type of conversation. I think I can only say thank you. I couldn't talk, and it's nothing to play with. And to see, and he has had our president has had our colleague, you know, at one moment, you know, Herman Cain was sitting in the audience attending an event in support of the president, and now, you know, Herman Cain is not here anymore. So it's something that is very, very serious. And for somebody who struggles with breathing, that breathing thing is nothing to play with. And I just think that people who don't wear masks and everything you're doing is horrible. It's a very, very wicked disease. But I liken it to Ed, you're a boxer, and Zaid's a boxer, a knockout, because at one moment I was standing, and I feel like the movie Friday, you got knocked the F out, because I didn't know what, my feet was from up under me, and I didn't know what happened. So,
yeah, you know, and that's the thing about it. I mean, you know, we're all sitting here talking, and you know, you gotta breathe in and expel that air to even talk. Just think about not breathing. Just you know, hold your breath for a second. Just think about. I mean, that is like one of the most panicky type issues you could have. Not to, if you can't breathe, you die.
Right.
You need air.
and,
So
and
for that,
Congressman, as you explained to that point, George Floyd had that effect on me, when that's the revelation that I had. And I was so upset for somebody to take that liberty away from you. That right there, I had a whole different revelation as a result, because I knew, you know, I had just gone through not being able to breathe. So you're right, that breathing, I had a whole nother understanding of that, sir.
and to George Floyd, since you brought that up, just think about that situation. So this guy is leaning on his neck, right? And every time Floyd speaks, less air is going back in. So you're slowly curtailing the amount of air that someone can take back in, until he can't take any more in and dies after 8 minutes and 46 seconds.
Too. People don't realize how big that brother was. That brother was almost 6'6", 240.
Right.
Right. if he can't stand that kind of trauma, imagine the average,
Right.
you know, black male or female, you know,
Absolutely.
being confronted with that kind of physical force and trauma by somebody who's got a badge and an attitude that think that they are absolutely above all accountability when it comes to them using that kind of deadly force.
Right. Right. So, you know, in reference to the president, you know, I hope he survives this. I don't agree with his politics. I think the man has a narcissistic evil streak that we've never seen in this world. But you know, I don't wish death on anybody. So, you know, hopefully he comes out of this and he learns something from it. Now, the interesting part for me is, and I've been in discussions with my staff all day, is, you know, unfortunately, in the business I'm in, I have to look at what if he doesn't make it.
Right. Right.
And what the continuity, you know, of authority and power is in the United States. So, you know, I'm sure on a higher level, Ms. Pelosi and all those folks are together. But you know, I've been in conference with my staff and a few of my colleagues on, you know, how we move forward. But there's you know, there are articles in the Constitution that address this and you know, have been amended as we have gone through the different successions of presidents. It looked one way under Eisenhower, and they had a secession plan, and now there's the 25th Amendment to the Constitution, which you know, brings in quite a few people: the vice president, cabinet ministers, cabinet secretaries, for them to come to a consensus that the president is unable to perform his duties, and they agree on it. And then it would come to the Congress, and they would have to have a 2/3 majority in both houses to pass and agree with that.
For the record, a lot of people may not know that President Eisenhower once upon a time had a heart attack when he was in office.
And a stroke.
Richard Milhouse Nixon, later to be the president that had a very similar issues with being able to abide by the law, was his vice president.
Right. Absolutely. So Nixon almost was president a little earlier than he won that election. But you know, these are very serious times, and it's just amazing how we continually have issues around this president that has this country in flux. And the world is watching. I mean, we haven't really gotten any real information on the president's condition, really. And I tweeted out a little while ago that his doctor, Dr. Connolly, needs to come before the American people and give us a status report on the president's condition. Mm-hmm. It's required by the Constitution. We need to know that the president is, the commander in chief.
Yeah,
and I was going to say, go ahead.
Congressman, I wanted to ask you this because I saw Janaea Hayes, Representative Janaea Hayes, one of your colleagues in the Congress from Connecticut.
Right.
And I didn't know that, she is still recovering from COVID-19.
Yes.
And she was saying today on television, when I saw her interview today, she was saying some of the same things you were saying, Donna. But one of the things she said is that how upset she is that the Congress does not have, consistent testing for Congress members or staff. And
Don't get consistent testing.
Have to go out and actually pay for their own tests, right? And I thought about you, Congressman. I was like, well, wait a minute, with the mobility issues, our congressmen have, I don't know, Congressman, I don't know if I feel comfortable with you going down there. And some of them cats down there who support Trump, they be shaking his hand, walking around with no mask on, and you got to be careful getting in their damn face, man.
Right.
So up to now, so far they've identified 9 people around the president that have it now, and it started out with Hope Hicks, and now it's up to 9. So this story isn't over, because it takes a certain amount of time for it also to present itself. Like, just because you had a negative test today doesn't mean tomorrow that test will be negative, because it takes a certain amount of time for it to manifest itself. So this story is not over by a long stretch. And shout out to Johanna Hayes.
Defreeze.
She reached out to the sister, real dynamic sister, was the teacher of the year in the United States at one time, and became the first African-American woman period from the state of Connecticut to serve in the Congress. And just think it took till 2018 for a Black to get to Congress from Connecticut.
Oh, wow.
But she's coming along. She came to, we had the CBC luncheon, and she poked in virtually. So we were all so happy to see that joyous smile on her face again. But it's no joke. And I actually was going to put forth a resolution to deal with that in reference to the members of Congress being tested, because it is a concern, and we need to definitely look at that issue. So
I just assumed that if you're in Congress, that you'd be tested every time you met.
Right. Well, now and that's the funny thing, John. There's a lot of things people assume about Congress that ain't so.
It's like that, because I would they need to keep y'all safe. You're the elected leader, run the country.
So my staff and I were talking today, and we were discussing. I was talking about creating a letter to the speaker, asking for rapid test, trace, and isolate regime for members and senators of Congress, so that the people's work, we can do the people's work in person. And, that was kind of after the Trump thing jumped off. But, I was kind of asked to stand down right now by the leadership in the House. So, we're drafting it, and it's just a matter of dropping it. And so, I show deference to the leadership in the House, but at some point in time, your principles have to guide you. So right now I'm laying back, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's where I'll stay.
Yeah, but sister, Sister Hayes, she supports that, man, because I don't even think she feel comfortable going back to work in Congress without that.
We told her don't come. We told her don't come back.
Yeah.
And I don't look. I'm in Washington, a lot of the time, but I'm not going up there every day, running up there. There are certain things that I need to do, for my constituents that I do, but I'm not running up there, every single day, in everybody's face. No, I do a lot of my work, just like we're doing this show. Do a lot of my work. Thank God for Zoom and WebEx.
Right.
Because the people's business continues.
Yeah, and
Safely it continues. Yes.
Right.
And the thing is, Congressman, I think that with so many of the CBC members, who are seniors right now, and with the mobility issues they got, they'll mess around and kill all of our brothers and sisters up there, man.
Right.
Especially these guys walking around with no mask on, and how some of these white folks are. They love to get right up in your face, man.
Right.
You know,
nobody. Let me tell you about the.
They get right in your face like they're gonna kiss you.
Let me tell you about the Progressive Black Caucus. Ain't none of us heroes. So anybody that's got some issues is not hanging around on Capitol Hill, believe me. So, and if we see somebody, we say, we tell them, look, man, you need to stay home.
Yeah.
Do this over Zoom and WebEx. You don't need to be up here. You ain't gonna miss nothing. Anything you need to do, we will get you. So don't worry. We will contact you. You ain't gonna miss nothing.
Yeah, all these crazy ass Republicans, they had a prayer visual, man, and not one of them cats down there on Capitol Hill last weekend had on a mask, right? And I just could not believe that. I said, wow. I said, I was looking at Reverend Graham. He's, he and Mike Pence and his wife, and I'm saying, are these people for real?
Well, I mean, like I'm in a different state. I'm in Georgia, and New Jersey. I got spoiled. In New York, and New Jersey, I'm like, most people are taking it seriously. Most people are wearing masks. You go to a fast food restaurant, go to get coffee. All the workers wearing masks. People take it seriously. People aren't walking in stores without masks. Down here, there are whole groups of people, black and white, that have it as a badge of honor, right? Like they're just walking around, just chilling, just walking in stores, and even people who are working in stores, wearing it around the neck when they're making your food, and you're like, if I had to pass up, I'll be like, I won't get coffee here. I'm good. You can have coffee. No. And there's like an entire culture of people who take pride in not taking it seriously.
You need to check back in a month or two, see if they're still alive.
Word.
This is serious. I don't understand. In fact, with the president going through what he's going through, I was in a place of somewhat comfortability, but now, I'm gonna tell my kids too, like, you need to be careful out here, running around everywhere. And this thing is still out there, because I think we've gotten a little, things are being normalized and the restrictions are being lessened. So it's a situation where, you could get, the president does that thing where he's no mask in front of us, but he's the kind of guy that will have a mask on when we don't see him and keep everybody away from me. And then when he comes out in front, he's like, no mask. You can't ever believe what you see with him. So, believe me, they're checking everybody that comes near. He's got everybody that's coming near him being checked. So, he's playing it a different way. He ain't wearing a mask, but nobody that potentially could be infected with it is getting 10 feet near him. And go ahead.
And I was going to give you one more. He also knew that if he got sick, he would get the best, latest healthcare on that as well. Apparently, he's getting an experimental antibody treatment that's been developed by one of our companies. So he'll have access to things that most Americans would not have access to, and he knew that as well. So when he's like, "Oh, I'm brave. I'm walking around without a mask," not everyone has presidential level health care.
Right.
And fewer because of Trump.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But John, everybody pays for it. Everybody doesn't have it, but everybody pays for it.
Everybody's paying for it. That's right. That's right. That's your tax dollars at work. But it's a situation that just baffles me, and you hate to say I told you so, but here we are.
And Congressman, I just put up a story that's we haven't had the opportunity to verify, but the story that just came out 17 minutes ago is that the president is having problems breathing.
Look, they didn't fly him to Walter Reed, which if he was in any kind of shape, that it's a 15-minute car drive with, them blocking all the streets all the way to the hospital, 10 minutes, and the entourage that would accompany him, they put him in that helicopter to make it 7 minutes.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
So this is no routine thing. Even that
Dangerous.
even that secret trip he took to Walter Reed about a year ago, they did it in the car. So, this is serious. You can, based on the way the government is operating, you can determine, the severity of the situation. And that was that doctor in the White House probably saying, look, you got to go to the hospital now. Because he probably fought it the whole way because he doesn't like seeming weak that he has to go to the hospital. He's the greatest, most healthy president of all time, so he doesn't want anybody to see him going to the hospital. They put that joker in the helicopter.
Yeah.
And I think
here's the other thing. When you
go ahead, I'm sorry.
But the other thing is when you 74 years old and and we don't really know all of the morbidity issues that he got other than the one that they report where they say he's obese, overweight, and so that contributes to the COVID. But so we don't know what his other health issues are. But at 74, that once you start going to the hospital and you have something this severe, because they say that there are lingering effects for people who have had COVID. And Donna and Zayed, y'all could probably speak to that. But at 74, once you start going to the hospital, you start going on a regular.
Yeah, I still have lingering effects. I'm getting ready to go through a serious detox, and because I'm without medical benefits at the moment, so I'm ready to go through a serious detox just to combat some of the residual symptoms that I still have. So it's no joke. It's no joke. It's no joke. He ought to. I hope he comes through this and comes out for healthcare for everybody. I hope he has an epiphany for real.
I don't know if he'll.
He might be too mean for that, but we gotta. We the humans in this equation.
Right, but according to him, he'll give you the best health care. That's what he has a plan for. He has a plan. It's going to be the best health care. I think in his mind, he's already done it. Like
right.
What he's going to do is already done. As long as he gets the health care, I think he's good.
Oh yeah, it's true. And I was surprised more of his family didn't show symptoms. I guess it's amazing with this Hope Hicks how this transpired. But he always makes sure Hope's on the plane with him. I mean, or on the helicopter with him. I don't know. She doesn't seem that bright to me that he needs her around all the time. But what?
Ooh, Congressman.
What'd I say?
Okay.
Hope don't sneeze now.
You're having a human moment, beloved. That's all right.
Hey, so Congressman, let me ask you a question.
You take the boy out of Newark, you can't take the Newark out of the boy now.
Right on to that.
So, Congressman, what's going on with Mnuchin and Speaker Pelosi? Did they get an agreement today?
We're very close to a deal. We've been put on 24-hour notice to return to D.C. in order to vote on the package. But Speaker Pelosi's done an incredible job to pull those guys, so close to where we wanted to be in the first. We wanted $3 trillion in the HEROES Act. We're at 2.2 trillion. So we've only and these are the kind of numbers we deal with. So I'm not dismissing it, but so we're only down 800 million. So no, 800 billion. I'm sorry, 800 billion.
I was about to say, I was like 800 million. Wow, you got a deal.
No, we're only down 800 billion.
Okay.
which is still a deal. I mean, we're over 2.2 trillion. You know, could have been a lot less, but we've held out and we've fought. They thought that we were going to give in, and we were just like, no, we're not giving in, because we know what the American people need, and we don't want to have to come back down this road. So why don't we just do what we need to do now, take care of everybody, and then move on? You know, they want to piecemeal people to death. Like, here's a crumb, here's a crumb, here's a crumb. You know, you're feeling bad again. Okay, here's another crumb. Now leave me alone. Okay, here's a crumb. You know, as you get hungry, they want to throw you just a crumb. They don't want to feed you. They don't want to take care of you. They want to, you know, they want you to need and want them and have to beg them. So we didn't fall for that. And we said, fine, we'll just leave with the American people. Go out there and tell them, hey, look, we've been trying to negotiate with these guys, and they don't want to give you what you need. And they're like, oh, wait, man. We don't need you to say that. Let's talk about it. And you know, we convinced them that you know, we were willing to walk away, you know, walk it back a bit, $800 billion, but we need to do what we need to do for the American people.
And Congressman, to that point, there were he was trying to do an executive order so that I mean, this dude, he was trying to buy votes. He was trying to do an executive order with seniors, got I think he was an amount of money. Did you I don't know if that came across, but it seems like he's just trying to do all of these financial favors, if you will, as you get closer to the election. And to that point, we had talked about earlier, and you had said this, I think, in your September show, about all of the pieces. Do you have a number about pieces of legislation that you have sent over to Mitch McConnell's desk that has not moved forward since you've been back in session, sir?
At least 400.
Wow.
Sitting on his desk. They got to be not sitting on his desk and next to his desk, that many bills. You know, that's a total, that's you know, they're not doing their job. That's a total abdication of your office. You're supposed to be there moving legislation, and nothing is moved but federal judges and Supreme Court judges. So, you know, that's their game. That's their game plan.
And so, Congressman, so y'all are on 24-hour notice, you know, in regards to this bill. So it could happen over the weekend. Now, did all of those airline workers, or did they get laid off or furloughed, or they just on?
They did. No, they did.
Wow.
They did?
Yeah.
Oh man. See.
So you got money for the airlines. The airlines had the money to bail out their workers. They bailed themselves out, but laid off their workers. I mean, because I know you wrote a very stern letter saying, "Hey, we bailed you out. We didn't bail you out for yourselves. We bailed you out to help these workers."
Right. To that point, what they're saying is that they've exhausted the funds that we sent them in order to keep the workers to this point, and they're at a point where they need, you know, they need more money, or else they would have to do the layoffs, and so that's where we arrived, which was one of the reasons we were trying to get the, you know, if we had the HEROES Act go through the process, we wouldn't be talking about this right now. The airlines would have the money that they needed in order to keep the workers. And, you know, we've gotten a little smart too. We're writing it so they can't, you know, play with the money, and it's for a specific reason, or else they have to return it. So,
okay. So,
and Congressman, I saw a news report last night, and a flight attendant, a tenured flight attendant, was given testimony in terms of if that money didn't get to the airlines, and I mean, she was literally on camera crying. And this is like the big 5 airlines that needed the funding, and just to hear her testimony, and I think the messaging is that because that Heroes Act is sitting on that desk, like as you just stated, we're facing these, these issues, and it's just terrible.
Absolutely. There would have been no reason for them to lay them off if they had passed the Heroes Act. And, the relief for the American people is sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk. So
he's got to go too.
Yes, hopefully, God willing. That's going to be a tough one, but we're hopeful the way things are going. I think the prospects of that get better and better every day.
Yeah, I would think that with all of the energy in Kentucky, that people would rile up and organize in such a way, right? To get McConnell out of there. You know what I mean? Those should be daily rallies where things are being shut down to wake people up, because this is a great opportunity, particularly with everything going on in this climate, with the way that he's treating the Supreme Court, with the way he's treating the Heroes Act. I mean, with the way he's being disrespectful to Congress. I mean, it's just. I mean, that if you look at the way that they're running the Senate, I mean, it is totally mafioso, right? Because even the guys in the Senate who you think would have some integrity, Mitt Romney, none of these guys seem to have any integrity at all. I mean, to say
they're all on the deck.
Yeah, to say, look, particularly if we're talking about the Supreme Court, right? I mean, if they wouldn't allow Obama to do that, and he had like 9-10 months to go, and they try to do this in less than 30 days to get her appointed to the bench. I mean, this is absolutely outrageous.
Right. Well, now with this Senator Mike Reed testing positive, and he met with the lady, and then she went around and met with a bunch of other senators. They're waiting. They're worried about the shoe dropping in the Senate, where the Supreme Court nominee might have it, and other senators have it. Now they're trying to figure out who was around Mike Reed during the time that this thing was incubating. So,
wait, do they think that the Supreme Court nominee might have COVID?
Possibly. She met with Mike Reed, who has it.
Oof.
And in that case, they all are supposed to go in quarantine immediately.
Absolutely.
Right. So for the next 15 days, not running around meeting with anybody.
That's not a matter of choice. That has to happen.
Right. But we'll see what they do and what happens. There are a lot of good laws. A lot of good laws in the country. Doesn't mean everybody follows them.
That's right. And to that point, this pick for the Supreme Court justice seems to me that she would have been the more likely person that they would have put up in the place of Scalia. She was Scalia's clerk. She's worked with him. I believe her voting pattern may even be similar, but he had to get the other dude up instead of putting her first. So it's just, I don't know.
Yeah. I think people, convinced Trump that since it was a woman that was leaving the court, that, it should be a woman. So I think she's been on the top of his list for a while. But, knowing his male chauvinistic patterns, I'm sure he had to be talked into, making this woman an appointment. So, I hope.
Or maybe not, because I think Trump might even like the irony of putting a woman on who would overturn Roe v. Wade. sometimes it's not the gender, it's the agenda.
It's the
that
principle.
matters.
Yeah.
So
True.
That's the
No,
T-shirt,
absolutely.
Jonathan. That's a T-shirt, Jonathan. And Congressman, did you get a chance to pay your respects to RBG? And I was looking at her trainer. She was actually one of my favorite people, and just reading about her and just seeing some of she work. And then Zaid and I had a opportunity to listen to Professor Gray Carr from Howard, and he highlighted the importance of her dissents. And I think her dissents will, what was it, Zaid, that it will vote few. So she was thinking,
Dissents can be used for majority opinions to change or to challenge a case decision, in future cases, right? I mean, let's hope that within 10 years, this court looks very different than what it looks when it's about to look like, right?
Right.
And a similar issue comes up on a given case, that dissent can be used to move a majority to vote a different way. The dissents are very important in the appellate system.
And she was prolific, from what I understand. When they needed a strong dissent, that's who they went to. So, God bless her and all that she's done for this nation. And, I felt so bad because I used to look at her and, going through cancer and then getting back up. She tried to hold on for this country.
She had to give it to her. She fought.
She knew what was, was lingering in the background, and she did everything she could to try to hold on for this country. God bless her. Just giving to this country to her very last day. Trying to thwart this president by staying alive, and she knew that. God bless her.
And she even gave final words to her granddaughter, in terms of asking them not to appoint someone until the election was over. And look at that level of disrespect.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's who they are.
That's the difference between a clean glass and a dirty glass.
And I'll just show you guys right here. Here's my RBG dissent pen, so that right there. Yeah, that's a dissent collar right there. So.
Right. Yeah. So, it really is some interesting times that we're living in.
Crossroads. We have to cross.
This generation that we're in, we've gotten to see a lot. From
COVID turned us out in more ways than one.
Presidents being assassinated, major leaders in our community being assassinated, and we really have been privy to quite a bit in our lifetime, and it's really, really interesting, the points in history that we've been able to witness and be a part of, and then even on a platform like this, expound on and talk to people out there in the community that hopefully find our discussions interesting and inviting, and also along the lines that they feel strongly about. So thank you APAL, appreciate it.
You always seem very optimistic, and I think that the question I want to ask you is, like, we not only have we seen a lot of years like you were talking about, right? Like, we haven't seen many years like this. I think, like, historically, people
you haven't seen a lot of years like this.
Right. Historically, people talk about 1968 as being
I remember it clearly.
And and then you're talking about now, 2020, and it doesn't seem like, and the year, as bad as this year is, this has been the most wild week. Like, from the Supreme Court nomination to the $750 taxes news story to the debate to getting COVID, and it just
McConnell's Negro messing up that whole thing with Breonna Taylor.
Right.
Well,
and then you have a series of social unrest that happens at the same time when you keep having all these different stories out about like the well, I guess we can call him a coon, the AG in Kentucky, who like seems like he was doing a lot of tap dancing for, and possibly even breaking the law and breaking his oath to try to just actively not bring charges, not even bring up charges to the grand jury, and support potential police lying. So it just seems like there's just so much that's going on right now that many people can get very cynical about. It doesn't seem like you're ever cynical when we talk to you. You're always very optimistic, like we can go through this, we can get through this. What is it that makes you as possibly optimistic as you at least appear to be?
Well, key word there is appear, but you know, it's how I was raised. You know, my father was an optimist, and you know, in the worst light, he could find a positive, you know, in the dark of night, and it's rubbed off on me. I mean, you know, if you're cynical, then where do you go from there?
You can't do this, yeah.
Where do you go from there? So you have to have optimism, even if it's misplaced. You have to always, you know, then what would have Dr. King would have done if he couldn't have continued to talk about, you know, the optimism? He would lay out the problem and stare it in the face, but then he'd always turn. I mean, think about knowing you're going to die and you stand up there and say, I may not get there with you, but I've seen it. Mm-hmm. It's there. The promised land is there. Optimism. I always think about that song. I can't never think of the name of it when I want to, but when they talk about that saved a wretch like me,
amazing.
That song, that, you know, every time they get to that line, they might as well be saying Donald Payne rather than a wretch. Saved a wretch like me. I mean, I'm just so fortunate in my life that my obligation to the people of the 10th district is to try to show them that optimism and try to get to where we all can benefit from the greatness of this country. A lot of times, you know, because we've been put down and put upon so much, you know, we curse this country, and at times rightfully so. But if we could ever get to where other folks are, man, this country, it is the greatest country in the world. It really is. But you got to get it to work for you. And they don't make it easy. They don't make it easy working for you. You know when I really realized that it potentially could happen? When Barack Obama got elected. He worked the system. He got an idea. He captured the imagination of white folks, black folks, everybody in this country. And they elected him. Not once. The once could be the fluke. You know, once could be the fluke. But they went back and reelected him? No, that's the greatness of this country. If you have an idea that you can capture the imagination of the people in this country, it's difficult to do. It might only be one Barack Obama, but because of the way the system's set up, you see that it can work out that way.
And and was able to change the way that we talk about healthcare. Even though people have talked badly about Obamacare and the flaws in Obamacare, it's been a long time when people recognize that the debates that they were having was, should healthcare be a right? Should everyone have access to it? And passing the Affordable Care Act was something that I think people take for granted as being a lot more difficult. Like it was a lot more. It was incredibly difficult, almost impossible. And I don't think we appreciate how difficult it was.
Seven presidents prior to him tried to do what he did.
And that's the first target. That's the first target for the Supreme Court. We need to be clear.
And never got past go.
Mm-hmm.
And what he wanted to do is watered down, absolutely. But that's the way the system works. He kept knocking things off until he was able to get a deal that he could live with. Nobody was happy, so that meant it was a good deal in Congress. That's how we look at it. You're not happy, I'm not happy, then it's a good deal. But I mean, and they tried to knock it down like 48 times. That's all I did with first 2 years I was there. All I did was voting on repealing the Affordable Care Act. And to show how ignorant people are in this country, and I won't say who, but there are ignorant people in this country. They had a guy interviewing somebody the other day about the Obamacare, and he said, "No, Obamacare, we got to repeal that." He says, "And yeah, we got to look at 9/11 too." He says, "So how much did Obama have to do with 9/11?" He said, "Oh, he had to do a lot with it. We're going to have to investigate that because he had some, he had a lot to do with 9/11."
Wow. When he was a state senator from Illinois.
Exactly.
And you know what, Congressman? I remember Jimmy Kimmel. Actually, if you watch Jimmy Kimmel, he goes out and he does the street beat. And
Right.
What's his the young man that works with him? I can't think of his name. But he sent him out on the streets out in LA. And the question he asked, do you want to support Obamacare? No. But do you want to support the
Affordable Care Act.
do you want
Care Act.
we want the Affordable Care Act all day. We just don't want Obamacare. So
Right.
that was that shows you to that point of how ill-informed people are and how they just go against
how racist they are with their ignorance too.
Yeah, that's the quintessential example of people's ignorance to what's going on. But look, we just got to keep fighting. And John, my optimism, is what keeps me going too. I mean, sometimes it doesn't work out the way I think or the way I look at it, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to try to continue to push forward, through some negative obstacles in order to advance some positive results.
So before we run out now, we got two things we need to talk about. And obviously, this is a big issue in our community right now, and that is making sure that none of the mail-in ballots get thrown out, right? And then making sure that people who want to go to the polls are able to go there and vote safely without, I don't think we'll have any issues. I think in the Black community with the white racist boys that say they're gonna be standing by. I don't think we're gonna have that issue. But to make sure that all the T's and I's are dotted, on those forms, right? Where do you think we are with that? Because one of the things that Donna had the senator on a minute ago, and she was saying that, when she was telling that story about her brother had the wrong envelope, Donna.
Yes.
And that if some of our seniors are voting and don't really have the help that they need to make sure all that is done, what are we doing, or what is it that is being done to make sure that say the Secretary of Elections are not making sure that those people's votes are not disregarded?
Well, that's a chore that the whole community is going to have to pitch in on, and making sure that our seniors do know how to get this done and where they can go to get help with it and what have you. That's incumbent upon us as elected officials. But like you stated in your comments, I don't think we're going to have a lot of problems here in Essex County because we have a county clerk that understands and what the demands are in our communities, African American communities, and other communities in Essex County, and what we expect. So he's gone through the process. He has to run in Newark and Orange and Irvington in there. So he's familiar with the concerns and demands that we have in our community. As a matter of fact, in Essex County, one of the questions has been the number of drop boxes for people to vote. In Essex County, there are going to be 25 different boxes all around the county for you to drop your vote in. And some counties, I'm hearing 7, 10, 5, but in Essex County, there are going to be 25. So that says a lot about going to make sure that
Access.
Right,
what
that
it should
people have the opportunity to drop their ballots off and make sure that they get registered. So I have a lot of faith in Chris Durkin, and based on all the meetings that we've had with him up until this point, I'm convinced that here in Essex County that he's going to do everything he can to make sure that people have the opportunity to register their vote. Donna, you want to mention something too?
Well, that's how we started.
You've dealt with him.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, that's how we started to show out that say mute yourself. That's how we started out that Chris Durkin. What I will add, what Chris Durkin has done is he's listened to the feedback. The ballot has changed tremendously based on feedback from the May election to the primary to the election we're here. In terms of, he had a conversation, Congressman, with our postmaster, Miss Virginia. And Miss Virginia said something to him, and you know how Miss Virginia is, that she comes out like, she said, who designed the who did you talk to about designing the envelope? Because if you remember, there were issues where the envelope, there was some confusions and some of the ballots were going back to the people. And Miss Virginia was like, who did you talk to? And as a result, the envelope says down across the front, official ballot. There's a slot that you put a bar in there now. So it has drastically changed from May to the July, actually July in town, and that was it. Which means is that, and he's been working because he came out of the May election to get ready to the July, and come out of the July to get ready for the November, because in the ballots you're counting them. So I think the July election, when did the final numbers come in Congressman? So it's been a constant work. And just to look at the inserts from May up until now, it's been an involvement for the better. And he's been doing Zoom calls on Facebook. He did one with Councilman Ivor. Linda Lloyd did one with him. So there is a demand, and like you said, an expectation on him in Essex County, and he's risen to the occasion, and he's very responsive. And Congressman, I can remember back when you were a freeholder, and Chris was walking around, and he was a sheriff's officer back then. And so this position, when he became he is very passionate about being the county clerk and how he gets the information out to the people. And he loves to hear the people of Essex County tell him how to do his job better.
Right. Yeah. No, I have a great deal of confidence in the clerk, and known him for a long time. And, as Donna said, that he prides himself on making sure that, his operation looks professional, and that nobody can question him on the validity of the process, because he knows how important it is, and he does not want his name connected with any question on whether the process was fair or not. So he goes a long way to making sure that anything that he does is legit, and that we're going to go with. But like he goes out like during the year and takes voting booths to schools and shows young people how to use the voting booth all throughout the county. He goes to senior citizen homes and does the same thing, shows them what the voting machine looks like and how they find this and that. So we've been pretty fortunate in this county, but also we have great leadership in this county, and the people of this county who demand the best. And so that's what we expect, and that's what he tries to give us. So, he's a good guy and does the right thing. But, this community in Essex County, Orange, or Irvington, Newark, all the way around, Glen Ridge, Cedar Grove, we demand the best, and that's what we expect.
Well, I think that one of the issues is that we're gonna need all hands on deck because of COVID-19, and I think that because you just can't readily go in senior buildings now, and you can't really have contact with seniors. I mean, we're gonna need all hands on deck to try and get in touch, with their family members, because if we take the cue from the sister, the senator that was just on with you, Donna, if we take her cue, I mean, we got to be in touch with our family members in order to make sure that those votes don't get disregarded, because you can believe that's what the Trump administration is counting on when they start talking about a rigged election and votes being, fraud and things being counted. He's counting on all of those mistakes that happen, just like they had these issues in Brooklyn this week where some ballots were sent to the wrong house, and that gives them evidence. And us not hearing from Barr on this situation just makes me a little nervous, simply saying that he's hiding out. He ain't saying nothing about this, but you got to believe they're preparing something right around that. And that's why we got to make sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted, especially when it comes to our seniors, and their ballots, and making sure that they're able to get them cast. So,
what is the Democratic Party doing? That's Ed. I think that's a great question. What is Congressman? What is the Democratic Party doing to deal with the attempt to steal the election in the streets and in the courts, as in to say, oh, all these ballots shouldn't be counted, or these ballots, and getting these different judges to try to get a vote in a favorable way. There have been real discussions.
That is the question of the moment.
Party for this.
Yeah, well, we've raised the issue because you wouldn't be able to ask that question if you hadn't seen us discussing it in some form or fashion. Sure, we know what this means. I mean, just think if put us all in the selfish respect right now. Shoot, if this doesn't work out, a lot of us don't have jobs, for the ones that's all they're thinking about. So absolutely, we're focused on this. This not only determines who the president is, but, all the entire United States House of Representatives, all 435 members are up for election as well. So if you don't think that we're not focused on this, I got a bridge to sell you, we're talking to a lot of smart people. We're raising the issue daily. If you watch news shows, and what we're concerned about and what we're just, so we're making the case right now. We're putting the case out there. Where there are instances that we can point to, we're pointing to them. But really, it's just a theory right now. Okay? So we have to have evidence of it. And then, we got a lot of people that are sitting around discussing this and ready to advise us on what we need to do moving forward. So a lot brighter people than me are sitting around talking about this to give me, information and ammunition, to move forward and against any improprieties that we see.
So probably the most important thing is to emphasize to get people to those polls, to get people out, to make sure the vote is really big. So
let me, and to that point, John, to this point, they've already received over 1 million ballots in early voting.
Wow,
that's important.
And it's only been open about 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's important.
So people have gotten the message. We gotten the message out, because if they're responding in that, because all we've been talking about is vote early. Get your ballot and send it in, so you don't have to worry about anything on the tail end, and your vote not being counted. And we see in Virginia, the lines that were in Virginia, the ones that weren't confident in sending it in, they got in that 2-3 hour line and waited and voted. So, and what they're saying is, it appears that most of the early ballots are coming from Democrats.
Wow.
So that's a good sign. So we're getting our message out. People are hearing us. Based on that type of response, we know people are listening.
Good.
We're going to be sounding the drum, because I know we're up against the clock. We're going to be sounding the drum in the streets tomorrow.
All right.
Go 12 noon, Lincoln Memorial. We're taking to the street.
We need it. We need it, brother. We need all hands on deck.
Right.
Whatever your lane is, play your lane.
Turn it up. Sound the drum, sound the drum, sound the drum. Yes, sir.
Congressman Payne.
Yes.
We left one meeting, and when we said we'll see you next meeting, and you got to tell us who is going to be the VP pick. So when we come back for the Payne Report, it'll be after Election Day. Is there anything you want to tell us, sir?
For
a lot of pressure.
What are you asking?
She said the next time we meet, it'll be after Election Day. And she's asking you to make another prediction. A lot of pressure. A lot of pressure to get it right. Uh-oh.
On what? What do you want me to?
She asked the next time we meet.
Let me give you. Do you want to pick our president? Do you want to pick who's going to be the congressman of the 10th congressional district? Do you want to pick if marijuana is going to be legal? What you pick it? What do you want to pick, sir?
Let's see. All of the above. Can I have 3? I'm getting greedy. Can I have 3 wishes? No. No, I think I think that there are days where I'm not as optimistic. John, you probably catch me on a lot of my good days.
Maybe.
There are days where where I'm very concerned about the reelection of Donald Trump, and at times being on the inside and the information that I see and the feeling and the climate that I get, I'm very concerned. He can still win, right. But that's if we don't do what we need to do. And I think we got enough people riding with us that weren't with us the last time, down with us this time, in order to make sure that doesn't happen. So, I hope I'm right. And I think that I'd like to pick the next president and vice president of the country, being Joseph Biden and Kamala Harris.
And you think marijuana is going to be legal in New Jersey?
It should be. I mean, enough people are interested in it, and times have changed. I know I got 3 votes in my house for it.
We're having a forum on that on October 14th, by the way. I'm sure to look forward to that. Yeah.
Them little jokers. I'm like, what? Oh no. But so they come down to DC. Dad, marijuana is legal in DC, right? I'm like, none of your business.
Come to visit.
So
not here, Junior.
Is that 2 of the twins in B, or is that like now?
Yeah, right. I gotta check with her. No, I deal with the younger ones on that subject. The other one's a grown woman; she can make her own decisions. But the young ones, I try to, stay informed of what their concerns and issues are.
Real quick, Congressman Payne, I'll tell Jonathan, because he says you're always optimistic. I can remember one of the best history lessons I received was standing outside of Thomas Colson Woody Funeral Home. And I was talking to Assemblyman Payne and Congressman Payne, and you were there as well. But we were standing on the corner coming from paying our respect. It may have been for Belosi. And I remember being outside, because we were across the street from Union Baptist, of course. And Assemblyman Bill Payne goes on to tell the story of how when Dr. King came to our area and he was a youth leader, and how he was tasked with escorting Dr. King around. And Dr. King came to Union Baptist Church and he went to speak, and he had Dr. King's index cards of what he was going to say in a speech, but he got up without the index cards. And he listened to Dr. King say his speech, and he says verbatim his speech, because Assemblyman had the cards in his hand, and he did the speech without the cards. So Assemblyman got to read it while Dr. King said the speech. So therein, when you hear stories like that, John, you can't help but be optimistic.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. I know we are already 8 minutes over, and we want to respect the congressman's time, and
hey man, I'm home. Look, you don't want to stay on.
We can keep going as long as.
You know how I am. I'm a slow starter, but then I get momentum up, and then I'm like, let's go.
I like Joe Frazier.
That's it. But no, thank you for having me once again. I can't believe it's here already. It seems like we were just here in September. I blink and like it's
it's October.
So much has happened.
Reminded
me I had the show on Friday. I was like, wow, man.
Yeah, time is flying fast. Time is flying fast, and that day is coming close. So we do look forward to having a conversation that is a post-election conversation, and we can have some. I think that there'll be some really interesting conversations. This is like either the calm before the storm or the calm before the whatever, right? Because we might not actually know who's president by the time. I mean, even though election day will be
up in the air.
Yeah.
Quite true.
There might be some stuff that's still, up in the air. Then, so we'll look forward to those conversations. I hope that it's over by then, and it's a quick over. It's a landslide.
Right.
But I look forward to, we can't really predict anything that's going to happen in these times. So,
we do need a landslide.
because there's so much that happens on a day-to-day basis. So, thank you so much for coming out again this week, and everybody. We had a great show. Thank everyone coming for the first part of the debate. So Daryl Scipio, Elijah Smith, Rahman Muhammad, talking about the debate. Thank you for the and Donna for the segment with Assemblywoman.
Y'all had Rahman on here?
Yeah. Talking about
Lord. Did anybody get any word in edgewise other than him?
No, he did
good tonight. Yeah,
great for these conversations. I'm just saying, he's one of the reasons why I always like interviewing Rahman Muhammad and really liked having him and Elijah Smith on is because I got a lot of respect for him as a debate coach because he works with language. He coaches people for debates and he's really into the art of actual debating. So I've noticed a lot of the techniques that he has over the years, got a lot of respect for that. So whenever he's on our show, whenever we have these conversations, I'm always learning, and it's always a great back and forth because it starts to be about communication. So I love that education that I always get.
But Jonathan, before you wrap up, I just want to tell the audience that we apologize. There was some technical in the background that wasn't All Politics Local. It was technical. So while we weren't that clear on Facebook, it went continual on YouTube. But as we're closing out, it seems like the Facebook Live is coming up. And one of our watchers put out that because of Puerto Ricans leaving Puerto Rico due to the hurricane and persons getting the restoration to vote, persons that were in prison, now they can vote. That leaves 1.9 more million votes. So let's be mindful of that. And as and Ed was handing out promotions today, Congressman. He made me a congressman in the first hour, and he made Assemblywoman Valina Reynolds Jackson. She was on with us. He made her a senator, so he was handing out.
I'm the one that needed a job. It should have made me something.
So thank you thank everybody for coming out in terms of a great show. Another week at All Politics Are Local. Ed, any last words to close us out?
No, man, I just, I think that, all of us are feeling, the enormous pressure that's on, for this election, which is less than 30 days away. I think we all are feeling it. All I can say is, man, is just that, let us all pray, that our community get out and vote. And let's just make sure that we all stay safe, that we all can come back together next month. So I'm praying for all y'all.
All right. Yeah, wear your mask, all the other stuff. So thank you. And that's it. Good night. Thank you for coming, and good night. And we'll see you next week.
All right.
Yeah, peace.
Peace.
Peace.